Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Tour Life. We got a big show for you. The major for the MPO side just went down. It was just an A tier for FPO, but that doesn't mean it wasn't drama filled. We got extra drama, a little controversy at the Throw Pink, and we're going to have Holyn Handley joining the show tonight to explain all of what went down. We also have one of the cooler events in disc golf history, I want to say. Again, I'm not a connoisseur of or historian of disc golf, but the few years I've been in, the Legend Skins match was probably one of the cooler things I got to witness in person, and hopefully something that you guys got to, or you guys will get to watch here in the future. And we have Will Schusterick, who was a part of the Legend Skins match and also played in the tournament, USDGC. He will be joining the show as well at the top of the hour. Got to talk about Ken Climo, his big resurgence into disc golf. He jumped into the booth, and man, did he do an incredible job from what I've been hearing from people. Kyle Klein is apparently really good at Winthrop. I don't know if that's kind of gone under the radar, but we'll go into that and just how well he's been playing at that course throughout his career. And then Eagle McMahon dropped some surprising off-season plans right before we went live. So we'll dive into that and talk about that. Uli, without further ado, man, how's it going, brother?
It's going good. I mean, still at home. Can't complain. The best 2 weeks of the season are these 2 weeks, man. Rock Hill, Winthrop University, a few miles down the road, and then just a short little 45-minute drive up to the Pro Tour Championship. So I've been staying in my own house, housing a few people, eating some home-cooked meals. It's been awesome.
Yeah, you get to enjoy one more week of disc golf. I am in Vegas, back in Vegas for a few weeks here. Enjoying the beautiful weather that we currently are having here. I got to go to the game this past week, Monday Night Football. It was against the I'm blanking on the team. It was
Packers.
Who the heck did they just beat? Packers. It was the Packers.
Yeah.
It was about 40% filled with Packer fans. So there was a lot of green, and yellow. But we got the job done, got the W. First win ever at the home stadium for me, and the first win from the Raiders at home this season. So it was a big win. Kelsey was very excited, and it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Monday Night Football. We got a big one coming up against the Patriots. Could get 2 in a row, could get some momentum going. Watch out, Raiders. Steelers still trash, kind of, but they won. I don't understand the NFL. I'm glad I'm glad I'm not a betting man in the NFL, because I feel like that would be very stressful. I feel like you'd have no idea what you're betting.
You don't. I was actually part of a pick'em league last year that I'm not a part of this year, because I finished last place in the pick'em, and 1 week I was playing against the spread. 1 week I got one game right.
It's tough, dude. It's
hard.
It is. There's so many coin flips. It's ridiculous. USDGC just went down for this past week, though. Me and Uli were both there competing. Some might say that Uli was actually competing and I was just walking the course at times, it felt like. Did not go well for me. Unfortunately, had a really poor performance. Uli, you did pretty solid, right? It wasn't probably not what you were hoping for, but it was a respectable showing.
No, I was definitely hoping for some late season heroics, but I did kind of my usual out there. I told you at the beginning of the week that I have like a game plan that kind of nets me. When I play bad, it's about even to a couple under, and when I play good, it's can be pretty good, and that's exactly what happened. I didn't play that great, and I ended up shooting 9 under for the tournament, which was good enough for 31st place. And anytime in these tournaments that you can cash, you kind of got to be happy about it.
Yeah, this is probably outside of MVP, just because MVPs is much smaller field, so a lot less spots to cash. USDGC's got to be right up there as, one of the top 3, if not maybe the second hardest tournament to cash at. So hats off to you for doing that. And you get to play next week in the Tour Championship because no one dark horse ended up winning and taking your spot.
Listen, I love Sullivan Tipton. I loved his performance, but I was hoping those grass skips got a little faster final day.
Yeah. For those that don't know what we're talking about, it was unclear. Did you ever get actual official word from anyone?
I just didn't ask. I was hoping that it just wouldn't matter.
So it's unclear what would have ended up happening, but in the rules, it does say, like Parker Welk, for example, Parker Welk won out at DDO.
Yep.
However, he did not have enough Disc Golf Pro Tour points to qualify for the Tour Championship this weekend. But because he won a tour event / major, he gets qualified. So even though USDGC was not Disc Golf Pro Tour points eligible, like we didn't get any points for playing this major, Uli was nervous because it didn't say that if you won this tournament, you don't get, exempt. And so there was a possibility that someone that was not qualified with enough points, Sullivan Tipton was the guy that was kind of up there. If he would have won, Uli's spot would have got bumped for Sully. So we don't have official word on that, but that could have been a possibility.
If somebody wins the U.S. championships and is not in the Pro Tour, they deserve the spot to be in there.
I completely agree. That would be wild if you're a major winner and you're not in the Tour Championship at the end. Some other things that went down on our side at USDGC, we ended up doing our first ever Tour Life meetup, I guess you can say, or signing, whatever you want to call it. We released the Uli Dark Horse Buzz, which again, the name is up in the air. You guys can figure out whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called yet. There's a bunch of suggestions. But we released that in person, got to meet a lot of you guys. I also got a lot of people throughout the week just coming up to me and telling me how much they love the podcast. So if that was one of you guys, we really do appreciate hearing that. We put a lot of time into this. And obviously Silas behind the keys as well is a big factor. So from everyone on the Tour Life crew here, we really appreciate all the support you guys are showing the show. It means a lot.
Absolutely.
And then I ate so much. I don't think I did this last year, and I don't know why, but they gave us those. I told you, Uli, they gave us those little medallion things, which were like $13, I believe, at the food trucks. And I utilized every single penny. I got donuts one day. Fantastic. I got a burger, which was one of the better burgers I've ever had. And then I got this wood-fired pizza that was incredible. Very good. So all the food experiences I had there, did you explore a little bit of the vending and food?
I didn't get a chance, man. The only times that I was there, I was doing the signing with you. I was hanging out at the Discraft booth, and then being that my home is 4 miles away.
Yeah, it's tough.
3 miles away. Yeah, I was done and gone.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Nice being able to go home.
Yeah, I mean, when we don't get to do it very often, so if you're in the backyard, it doesn't really make sense to kind of be hanging out elsewhere when you can be chilling at home. So I agree with you on that. But if you get a chance next year, or if anyone's listening that's planning on going to USDGC next year, you got to check out the food vending. It is absolutely incredible. The Bogey Bros were able to do their preview show on the stage every day before the event. That was very nice, very cool setup. So yeah, USDGC treated Foundation and Tour Life and everyone involved very nicely. So we appreciate everything from that. All right, Holyn's going to jump on here in about 18 minutes. So we're going to try to see how much we can get through on the MPO side. We honestly might just talk about the Legends skins match a little bit and then save the actual breakdown on the MPO side because I have a lot to talk about there. After the Holyn Handley interview and after Will Schusterick. And then we got a few other topics obviously to talk about as well. But let's go into it. You weren't there. I don't think I saw you for the Legend skins match.
Home.
You might have been doing like Jomez stuff actually. or you might have been home.
Well, Jomez started at 8:30. So 8:30, 40-minute drive to where I had to go do it. So I was home for a couple hours. Yeah, home for a couple hours after the round, and then I was pretty busy.
Gotcha. So I stuck around. I mean, I was pretty much hanging out around the Discraft tent and the Foundation tent after my rounds most of the day. And so that was when they announced that this was going down. For those that don't know, is Will Schusterick, 3-time USDGC champion. Barry Schultz, I believe, won it once.
No, I think he's a 3-time
multiple
champion.
Times. How many?
2 or 3.
Okay. Oh, he's 2 or 3 as well. Okay. Sexton won it once.
Let me make sure.
Yeah. Fact check me on that. Sexton won it once. And then I believe Climo won it 5 times.
Yes.
I believe. So they had these multiple winner, or in Nate Sexton's, 1-time winner, but guys that were massive legends of the game, if you will. And they got them all together. I don't know how they ended up getting Sexton and Will to agree to play an extra 9 holes after the round.
Right.
But hats off to those guys for agreeing to do it. Or even, Barry wasn't playing in the tournament, I don't think.
He was. I don't think Barry was.
Oh, he was too. Yeah. Dang. So 3 of the 4 people were playing in the tournament. My goodness. So hats off to those.
2021, 2021. That would have been sick. 2001, 2003, 2006.
Okay, 3-time. Okay, yep. Wow. So they had 2 3-times, a 5-time, and then Nate Sexton has a 1-time. So they ended up doing 9 holes. They did hole 1 through 7, the triple Mando hole. Then they made the walk up to 17, 18. Yeah, they did 17, 18. That's where they ended up finishing it. I was on the grounds. It was Friday after lead card had finished. And it was by far the biggest crowd that the tournament had seen up until that point, mainly because there was a lot of big names kind of separated throughout the cards in the tournament. So there wasn't like a massive everyone. And also lead card had a couple guys that kind of popped off. So people were kind of sprayed out. But for this, everyone was watching this dialed in. The atmosphere was incredible. There was tons of pros in the audience as well watching, and a little kind of take on what I saw. The first one I would say is Ken Climo is, you can tell there's a photo of we got a photo here on hole 7 of where he's just getting the crowd amped up. Barry Schultz did the same thing on hole 1, but I wanted to just make a point of Ken, because when he came on and we interviewed him months ago, he talked about how he wanted to get back into disc golf, and he felt like, he kind of left for a little bit and he wanted to be more present. And you could tell not only was he loving being back out there and being a part of it, but the fans really appreciate seeing him and him being out there. And he was just living in the moment and loved it. And from watching it, I never saw him play in person. I never saw Will play in person either.
Really?
And so going into it, obviously you have all the stories of Ken Climo and you have all the titles and stuff. Will was a dominant player, but for a much shorter time span. And so I don't hear as much from him other than dude, this guy had some of the smoothest form, crazy distance, all that. So I was really excited to watch these guys play in person. Going into it though, I was like, all right, if Climo hits the tree on 1, if he gets the 3 and throws OB, if he gets the 4 and makes it halfway down I'm thinking in my head, don't put that much pressure on him to go out here, because who knows how long he hasn't played for. He's not he's probably grinding like he used to. And, he is up in his years now. It's not like he's a young spry chicken. So I was going in with it with the idea of don't expect much, but just watch and see kind of what he does. I think he can still compete at some of the courses we play on tour this year. Not all of them, but I think he could still compete on some of the courses we play, dude. He pures hole 1, Hole 2's tough, so throw that out. Hole 3's tough, so throw that out. But I think he ends up parring both. Hole 4, I don't know if he threw a mid or fairway. It was tough to tell. Pure the whole way. Just
What color was
a
it?
whole. I saw so many people struggle. Just dead laser beam all the way to the basket.
What color was the disc?
It was white.
Okay.
If it was a rock, I'm gonna be silly mad. If it was just one of those like 10-time rocks or whatever, 8-time rocks that people talk about. Then he gets to hole 5. He goes roller, perfect spot, backhand straight down the middle, backhand across, and then, not super close, but like still has a putt for birdie. Hole 7, walks up, gets everyone amped. So many people there. And then we have the video. I think we have the video here of me behind. We can play that for people watching. I can kind of talk about it. So he's getting the crowd involved. He's getting amped up. This is not an easy shot by any means. Tons of people miss it. Tons of people hit the Mando. I don't know what disc he's throwing here, but he just throws that smooth little like baby turnover backhand, and he's just under the pin. And it's like, I watched him play, and I'm thinking to myself, like, all these people that are like, Ken Climo, he wouldn't be able to, light a match to the people playing nowadays. I don't think you guys watched him play back in the day. I don't think you know what you're talking about. I was thoroughly surprised and very impressed.
I was lucky enough to play with Kenny a few times back in about 2007, 2008. I think he won the USDGC in 2007. He did it all shooting all in the 50s, and he won by like $1 billion. And I would follow the cards because I'd get done really early, and I'd go out and follow. The dude never missed a fairway. Hole 1 is an absolute gimme for the guy. See, a couple years ago, they had him. He didn't want to miss a USDGC, and he hadn't missed one. So he just went there, threw hole 1, and then quit. Didn't practice, didn't do anything, just walked up, grabbed his rock right under the basket, birdie, done.
His DNF.
I've never seen him hit a tree on hole 1. He's never, ever done it. Even walking up, because I saw a couple clips of hole 1, walking up to hole 1, after he throws it, Sexton goes, "Oh, first shot of the day," and he's like, "Yeah, this week I played some catch with Philo, but other than that, no shot." So he did all of this cold turkey.
Yeah,
that's incredible. And back in the day, dude, you don't understand how consistent he was. He would just never.
I have an idea after watching him play those 9 holes.
Never mess up.
Like he has never threw. I mean, hole 17 is a tough shot for a backhand thrower. He ended up missing the island by a little bit. But other than that, I didn't really see him throw a bad shot.
So perspective. Now think about a lot of the courses that we played back then. 400 footers were like the hardest par 3s possible. We played a lot of 350 to 330 foot shots. The guy doesn't miss that shot. So then think about competing against him when he has to throw hole 1 like that shot a whole bunch of times.
It's just, I think it's easy for people that never got to watch him play to just kind of write him off and just be like, "No, man, nah." And it's like, if you watched him play now, there's no way he's better right now than he was when he's 25, 26, 27. There's no way. And I'm like, I'm serious. There are certain courses, because I don't know how he would do on the longer courses. He would have to throw a lot of rollers and I don't know about that. But Waco,
Idlewild,
there's a lot of courses we play where it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, man.
Think about it. Like, now he's happy, jolly. Back in the day, dude, the guy was an absolute savage on the course, competitor. Like, he And his IQ of disc golf is so much higher than people even could imagine. I mean, and that actually shows in his commentary and what he knows about the game and what he watches. He told us when he was on the podcast that he watches everything. But he was scary to play against. I'll tell you a story. This is a true story. I was playing the Memorial. I was a young cocky kid, right? I'm playing with Ken Climo. I was playing with Josh Anthon, and I think I was playing with somebody else. Don't remember. But on hole 1, he called me on a foot fault. And at the time, nothing happened. You got a warning. And I remember being so worked up about it. I'm like, no, this is bull crap. Like, can't he just call me on a foot fault? And he was in my head. Well, I go to Josh and I go, Josh, because when Kenny used to putt, he would get on his mini and he does this rocking motion, right? Before he putts, he does this little rocking motion and he makes his putts. And he would always step on his mini. And so I told Josh, I'm like, as soon as he steps on that mini, I'm calling him on it. I'm just telling you. And Josh is like, okay. We go the whole round and we're all battling. We get to the last hole, okay? Last hole, I put it like 40 feet. Josh puts it wherever. Kenny's like 25 feet. I miss my putt. Josh misses his putt. Kenny has a putt to beat us. And I'm still on it. I'm like, no, I'm calling this dude on a foot fault. He gets up, starts rocking, and sure enough, that mini starts dancing, bro. And I'm like, yes, here it comes. Right before he putts, he pulls his foot back. He looks straight at Josh and I, looks at the basket, and cashes the putt. He knew what I was doing the whole round. And he just dropped in a 25-footer like it was like nothing.
Playing with his food.
It was... That was like a moment, an awe moment of I was just like, I had so much respect for him after that. I was just like, you know what? I foot faulted, bro. Like, my bad type thing. But that's the type of competitor that he was. He knew everything. He knew the situations. He knew what people were thinking. Like, the guy was insane.
Yeah. I got to meet him really quickly right before one of my rounds, and we were chatting like maybe a minute before I teed off, and I made a tweet talking about how, I just got to meet Ken for the first time in person, talk to him, and then proceeded to like throw it immediately into the bush on hole 1. And like my mentions were just like, yep, that's what he does. Yep, that's Ken for you. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, well. But yeah, it was great watching him in person. I think this is out now on the Disc Golf Network. So if you can, or, I don't know where you find this, honestly, but it's definitely worth a watch. Also, Barry Schultz, credible woods player, watching him throw 17 with like a little nose up putter Annie shot, thing of beauty. That was incredible. And then Will Schusterick, who is going to be coming on, and I have a lot of interesting questions to ask this man, because Uli, he threw the farthest drive I've ever seen on hole 3. And I played practice rounds with a lot of good players.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I didn't play that many during the tournament. I didn't play that many with that many good players that were playing well that week, because I was pretty low on the leaderboard. But I played a lot of good practice rounds with some good players, and obviously I watched some coverage and whatnot. His disc was almost on the downhill of the ditch on 3.
Oh, wow.
He threw the shot. He threw the shot. We were behind. Hole 3 is really hard to kind of get a gauge on where what you can see. So we were behind the tee pad, and he throws this shot on an insane amount of hyzer, and I'm like, ooh, that might be OB. As soon as it comes out of his hands, and Hunter like looks at me, he's like, no, just wait for this. And I'm like, what? And then the crowd just starts erupting, and I'm like, what? He's like, oh, he definitely didn't go OB. He must just put so much spin on the disc to keep it in the air that long. And we got up there, and I was like, where is his disc? That's what I kept thinking when we were walking up there. I was like, I have to know where this man's disc is. I'm thinking he like barely cleared the OB, or he almost got to the ditch, man. He was 55, 60 feet away from the Mando tree. It was an insane drive. He ends up also trying to go big on, I think he went OB on his roller or something on hole 1, or on hole 5. And so he ends up trying to go like a 600+ foot shot straight over the water. And that was maybe a little bit more playing to the crowd, whatnot. But it was insane to watch him play. He jammed a massive putt on hole 2, like 50 feet for the skin. Spoiler alert. But watching his game, I've got a lot of questions because I'm like, why is he not playing more? What's the deal? What's going on there? Because yeah, maybe the form's not what it used to be with the injuries and all that, but man, watching him play, that was something else. So whoever was able to put that together, shout out to them. And hopefully this is something that maybe they keep as like a tradition at USDGC, where like every year, if Ken wants to do it, if Barry wants to do it, and then you can kind of cycle in maybe the Nate Sexton spot. Are you out? Are you leaving? All right. Kelsey's off to practice. But yeah, if you want to like cycle in some people at the other spots, I mean, this is a must see TV stuff. And I think this is also incredible for the sport because we don't really necessarily have anything right now that does a good job of like really showcasing the history of the sport and keeping some of these people in it. And I think this is an incredible way of doing just that. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I don't know. You have anything to add?
I completely agree. No, it's just lucky enough to see those guys play and know their skill set. Dude, Will back in the day, he threw so hard that he's the only person I've ever seen have a speed wobble. Like not like a wobble from bad form. When his disc came out of his hand, it sounded like a and you're like, what?
Oh.
And that thing would be so fast. Like I don't know. I've seen him make some of the most incredible shots ever. I'm going to be very interested in the questions you have and to hear his answers, because I mean, if you don't answer some of the questions that I have, I can't wait to ask him as well, because what a fascinating story.
Yeah.
It's not that long ago that this guy was the best on the planet.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's 50 years old either. Like no. he could dark horse make a comeback, and I'm curious to see like maybe playing in that and doing decent this year at USDGC. Is that in the cards? Is that something that we maybe have in the future for us? So let's talk a little bit about Climo in the booth real quick.
At the USDGC.
Oh, you played with him this year too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I played with him second round.
What did you guys talk at all about, like future stuff?
I'm not gonna spoil
like him
anything.
Wanting to play more. Okay, no spoilers. We'll keep it until he comes in. All right, actually, Holyn. I think Holyn's here. So I think Sauce is gonna throw Holyn in.
Hit my camera.
What's up?
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you've probably have been making the rounds, so we appreciate you taking the time out of your day and right before the Tour Championship to stop in and say what's up. First, congratulations. It was only, I feel like me and Uli have talked a lot about like it was only a matter of time until you were going to take one down. And seeing your growth these last couple years has been really, really awesome to see. So first off, just want to say congratulations on the big win. And how's it feeling right now?
Oh, well, thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's been pretty good. It didn't really hit me maybe until like kind of Monday, head into my practice round, just because everything felt so business as usual. And honestly, things happened so fast there at the end. Like I didn't even know I was in contention until maybe 20-30 minutes before the whole thing was over. But it feels good to finally kind of get the monkey off the back.
Yeah, so I saw either in an interview or I saw somewhere a quote where you said that you didn't look at scores until you were on the 18th tee, and there was a massive backup. At one point, there was like 4 cards or something on 18 waiting to tee off. Do you think if you would have gotten to 18 and not had that big backup that you would have stuck out not knowing the scores that entire hole? Or like what was your strategy for not wanting to know where you were at?
Yeah, so I had been tempted to look pretty early on, like around 7 or 8, because I knew I was shooting really well. And the reason I didn't was because I knew either I was going to see that I was challenging for the lead and I was going to start to like feel a little nervous and maybe my like mindset would kind of start to change, or I was going to see that despite playing really, really well, I wasn't actually in contention. And I was going to feel some disappointment. And since like my mindset was in such a great spot, I didn't want to change anything. And like being that far back, like the answer is push, right? It's like I only look at scores if I needed the information for something. And at that point, the answer was going to be like, I have to keep trying to score. And then coming down 17, like there was a bit of an energy change. Like I could kind of tell going up into that, like the crowd was acting a little different. They were cheering a little louder than they normally would. They were cheering a little louder than they were for my card mates. So I kind of like started to feel nervous as though I was playing for the win. And at that point I was like, I'm already nervous. I may as well know what the situation is.
Yeah, makes sense. And, you know, going into the round, what did you feel like you needed to do? Was there a number in your head of like, I have to go out and just shoot the crazy lights out to even give a chance? Because like you said, you had, you know, it wasn't just Kristen in front of you. You had other players like Evelina and Henna who were playing really, really well that entire tournament. And so the idea that I think you mentioned earlier, like all four of them not playing great, the chances of that happening are slim. But did you feel like going into the round that something magical could happen?
I felt like I was kind of due for a double digits. It went through such a weird course where like the same player can shoot, you know, 10, 11 under and then go and shoot like even or even over par. But I felt like with where my game plan was that week, so often in the previous rounds, I'd been pretty close actually to shooting a really, really hot round. It'd just been like a couple feet here and there. So I kind of felt like 10, 11, 12 was super possible. As for like actually catching the leader, I had no reason to think that one of the four of them wouldn't do something similar, at least get like a 7 or an 8 down. So it was really surprising actually that all four of them kind of had, I won't call them bad rounds, like they were still good rounds, but they weren't like as hot as they.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the scores here, you know, if Evelina birdies hole 17 instead of taking a double, you know, she ends up basically winning it, right? So it's like there is it still was very close with how it turned out. And then obviously Kristen struggled on hole 8 when she took a double on that hole. So you're right in the fact of like no one really like blew up. They really just unfortunately each had a struggle hole. Ella struggled on hole 13, taking a triple on that hole. So, and you were able just to play pretty clean when you needed to throughout the entire round. How has it been? We're gonna jump into obviously what went down on hole 18 and stuff, because I know, but I want to give you the opportunity of telling exactly what went down, because obviously there's tons of speculation. But how have you handled this so far? Have you seen comments? Have people been posting stuff on your Instagram? How has it been for you?
Largely, I've been kind of trying to stay away from it. I mean, I know like people are going to be unhappy with what happened, and maybe people don't fully understand what happened because I don't know what was actually shown on coverage or what was really talked about. But I know I've had a lot of time to think about it and to kind of reflect on the whole situation, how we handled it. And I really believe we handled it how we were supposed to per the rules and per what we were able to see. So from my perspective, I did everything that I was supposed to do. And I've just kind of been ignoring everything else because that's not going to be good for my mental kind of going into this last tournament. So largely I've been kind of staying out of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's break it down. For those that don't know, we'll show the video real quick of what we're talking about. This is hole 18 coming into the final hole of the tournament. You were first to tee. In this situation, you have the other card mates are like 30 to 40 feet right of you. So they're pretty tucked away. And your shot goes over OB the whole way. And as it's coming in, which it was going to hyzer inbounds, it clips a tree. You kind of lose sight of it. And I'm just talking about what we see on coverage here. You lose sight of it. It kind of falls down through the tree. And all of a sudden it kind of pops out real quick. You get to see a couple frames of it fall down, hits the ground, and then goes OB. That's what we saw on coverage. Can you kind of walk us through after you throw the tee shot, kind of what happens from there all the way to you setting your lie up to where the disc ended up being?
Sure. Yeah. So actually, from my perspective on the tee, I could see where it hit the ground. So lining up my shot, I'm thinking I want to make sure it's a committed shot. The only time I had rollaway problems in practice was when I kind of had too sharp of a hyzer. I left it too inside, and I would kind of catch the steeper earlier part of the hill. And so I'm trying to get it hard and flat out of the hand and kind of scoot it up the hill and give myself the easiest second shot that I can. Pulled it a couple feet wide, obviously. And like you said, it's stabling up, and I'm thinking if I miss those tree branches, I'm in. It may even stay in. And so I'm watching it very closely. It hits those branches, and I saw the spot from my perspective on the tee pad. I could actually see the part of the dirt where it hit, and to me, it looked like it hit where the line is. So to me, it looked in. And then I come off, Alexis goes, throws her shot. And then when Alexis come off, I asked her, I was like, hey, do you think mine hit in or not? And she very confidently said, yeah, she thought it hit in. And so then as we're walking up, there's kind of further discussion. The marshal even stopped everybody and made sure to ask both Missy and Alexis directly what they saw, if they thought I hit in or if we needed to go back. And both of them were very confident that they saw it hit in. And then from there, we looked at where the disc was in the water. And, based on how it hit and rolled, we determined that that's the spot where I went was approximately probably where it hit. Which actually, if you go look at the line, like it follows the tree line kind of coming up the fairway. And then when that tree line ends, it does jut out towards the water and then kind of follow the water line a little bit wider. And where the disc was in the water, like it was at that wider part. So we had every reason to believe that it likely hit in just based off that. And then.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. The first one being why was there no provisional? Because the way it sounded like is you talked to Alexis, who said, I thought it was in, but didn't get a group consensus. And from all these stories I've heard too, it's been one thing that I've been interested on is I haven't heard anything about Ellie Ezra. Did she just not want to was she not watching, or because I also got the thing about the spotter or not the spotter, sorry, the marshal. The marshal, I saw the comment on Facebook. I also talked to Missy, and all those stories line up in the idea that the marshal went up as you guys were walking up. The marshal went to Alexis, asked her. The marshal then went to Missy and asked her. Ellie Ezra always is just kind of out of the story. So I'm curious, one, did she ever say anything? And then the second one, why wasn't there ever like a group discussion before leaving the tee pad of like, hey, should I throw a provisional first? Or why was it, why I guess was it just, you just asked one person and then walked up there?
Yeah, well, we walked up there. I asked Alexis, and like, that's two people, right? That's enough to get, because the way the rule is if it's two people, then the benefit goes to the player and then I get to play there. So in my mind, like that was enough to call it. And honestly, it's not that far away. We have to wait anyway. It's not that big a deal for me to just grab a disc and go back and throw again. So that was my thinking there. As for Ellie, she had thrown her drive OB to the right and kind of just went straight to her disc. She didn't come in and discuss or anything. And honestly, with her being new, it's possible she didn't feel comfortable in that situation. But again, like if you got 3 out of 4 saying a disc landed in a spot, that's generally good enough.
Yeah, for those that don't know the rules on this is 801.03 on appeals. When a group cannot reach a majority decision, which in this case you actually did have a majority decision, regarding a ruling, the ruling is based on the interpretation that it is most beneficial to the thrower. So even if you got in a situation where 2 people were saying, I think you crossed up here, and the other 2 people saying, I don't think you crossed, if no one budges and goes to one side or the other, and that's where you end, as far as I'm interpreting this rule, where you place the disc would be a benefit to you. So in this scenario, it would not be a re-tee. It would be where you actually played your disc. Uli, am I interpreting that rule correctly as well? Because that's an interesting rule that I think some people get right.
Let me jump in real quick. I think so. There's a couple things. I was watching it live, so I got to see exactly what happened on the camera, and then now getting the full story. The one thing that I feel like everybody needs to realize here is it's not only that the disc hits like what 3-4 inches out of bounds when you super slow-mo it with a camera.
Very close. Yeah.
It's very close. But that doesn't matter, because when the disc is up in the tree, you don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's moving to the right side or the one, and that bush hangs over the line so closely that you can't tell that if it did go over the line. It's not where the disc hits, it's the flight of the disc, right? So that's one thing. The next thing is this rule overpowers everything. This is the rules that we play by, is benefit goes to the player. That's a rule that supersedes even the spotter going up and being like, no, you hit right here. If the group can't see what the spotter sees, it's the group's call. That's the rule.
I gotta say though, like that is, we're gonna get to the spotter here in a second, but that is one of my biggest like things that I don't like right now is we have these spotters. I know it's the rule, Uli, but we have these spotters, and I had to do it multiple times, and I see it all the time too, of where the spotter puts a flag somewhere, and then like the person fights for like 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. And I'm just like, man, we're 500 feet away, 400 feet away. There's a guy right there. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's weird having spotters sometimes, because I think some people use the spotters as like.
The spotter really, it's there to help you for sure. But when it comes down to is the spotter can do whatever he does, right? We're playing to the rules that we have to play by. So one of the things that has actually been very frustrating with this year is what I see is spotter says here, player says here, you get halfway. That's not in the rules. Like,
yeah, it's a weird one.
You should either go where the spotter says, or benefit goes to the player where the player thinks he went out. And that's not happening lately. It's like, oh no, I've played in multiple times or multiple groups this year where they're like, I'm saying no, I think I went out here. Spotter goes, yeah, I don't know, it was pretty close. And then they go, we'll give it like halfway then. And it's like, no, per the rules, I'm either out back here or I'm where I think I am. You get
That's
what
a good
I mean?
Point.
Like, so shouldn't be in the middle. Back to Holland's situation. You don't know if it crossed or didn't. Therefore, you get it up there. And I believe that it doesn't matter what group it is in that situation for what happened. How can you send somebody back 300 and something feet if you're not sure, per the rule that supersedes everything? That's where I stand on the whole situation.
Yeah. The last thing I have on this, sorry, the dogs are getting a little frisky right now, but the last thing I have on this, Holyn, is was the spotter at all involved? Because the spotters, the interesting thing I saw about the spotter, and they were doing this on hole 5, which is the water carry. They were doing this on hole 18 as well, and other holes, where you would throw your disc OB, and regardless of where you are, I mean, hole 2, I threw my disc OB super far right, and the dude ran 200 feet to like put a flag where it ended up going out. So they were always doing the flag of where it last crossed in bounds, or where it was inbounds when it rolled out, whatever it may be. Was there any discussion on, hey, the spotter was in a pretty good spot, right? He's looking down the line, 60 feet away, 40 feet away, whatever, up the hill. Was there any discussion to the spotter or anyone else saying, he just gave you the red flag and didn't like run up and put a flag where you crossed? Was there any kind of thoughts on that?
So I don't think the spotter actually had a good vantage point of it, and I think that's why he stayed out of it. Because actually, with how sloped that fairway is and the way that those trees are, 60, 70 feet up the fairway, you can't see that line. Because he was nowhere to be seen. He didn't come over and say anything. He offered absolutely nothing. He didn't say, no, it didn't cross out. He didn't say, yes, it crossed in. He pieced out, basically.
Okay, gotcha. Last thing on hole 18, after watching the coverage and stuff like that, what are your thoughts now? Because obviously, like, it's so easy for everyone to kind of play this, like, Monday quarterback or whatever you call it, looking at the footage and stuff. What are your thoughts now after having a few days to watch coverage and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I actually haven't really gone back and watched the video. And I probably won't go watch it just because, like, what's the point? You know, like we called it the best way that we could at the time per the rules. I don't get the benefit, you know, of getting to see the video. And, you know, that's a whole different discussion you could have of, like, should we try to use the new, you know, the video technology to help us make these calls? And right now, no, because it's not fair. But, you know, we made the best call we could per the rules, and that's kind of it. Yeah.
Which actually leads me well into a question was sent in by Justin. He did ask, he said, should we have video replay, pros and cons of video replay? So you said it's not fair. So
it's just not fair to the other, because, like, the thing is, this situation happens all the time, right? It happens on, you know, it happened on lead card, which is why it's getting all of this attention. But in reality, like, it happens on every card at multiple tournaments where, you know, you've got discs that are riding the line of OB the entire way, or, you know, you can't tell because nobody would really had a good eye on it. And it's not really fair for a couple of cards to get the benefit of that technology or the detriment to it. Because in this instance, because we didn't know, it went to my benefit. Whereas if we had been able to, like, you know, analyze it, it wouldn't have gone to my benefit. And then someone on an earlier card, the identical situation, would have gotten the benefit. So it's just not really fair across the board. But then the pro of that would be in these scenarios where it is the, you know, higher money on the line or whatever, it's, I guess, technically more accurate. So, I mean, I think until it's fair for everybody, you can't have it.
Yeah. My only pro is, like, in a scenario like this or another scenario similar, you can get the right call. That would be the pro. My big cons are, one, I think we all need to be playing under the same conditions. And obviously, yes, lead card and chase card, they play with a crowd, they play with cameras. So technically they are kind of playing a little bit under different conditions, but we're all playing by the same rules still. In this scenario, this rule would only exist for a certain amount of players and not everyone. So right then and there, I don't like that. Yeah. And the other con is, again, pace of play. I think disc golf needs to be faster. We need to get these rounds in 2 hours. We don't want people having to watch disc golf for 4. Let's just get them 2 hours. And now we're going into some random booth and having someone, you know, up in wherever looking at footage and then radio. Now we're just adding in way more time. And yeah, I don't like it. Uli, what are your thoughts on video replay?
Yeah, it's just not fair. We don't have the time. I think those are all great points. Maybe someday, if there's cameras on every single shot and we can then use it, then maybe yes, it would make sense. But right now, absolutely not. And just back to my point that I feel like everybody is missing. It seems like the majority of people are missing with this whole thing is the rules are simple. Benefit goes to the player. That's a rule that we play by. Period. It's a rule that supersedes everything else. It protects the player. That's what it's there for. The player who throws that shot, not the field, that particular player. And in this case, it did. And so you just got to play by the rules. I've said that the whole time is everybody plays by the same rules. This is a rule that is in place that everybody uses, that everybody at some point in time has gotten the benefit of. Myself, Brodie, Holyn before, we all have used this rule and gotten a benefit at one time. Just because it was on the last hole doesn't make a difference. Not to me.
All right, we're changing it up. Throw pink, another kind of big topic around this tournament is this is the only tournament that we both in MPO and FPO both play where it is a different distinction of level of tournament, right? MPO, we're playing it as a major. FPO, it's an A tier. Do you think throw pink should be a major?
I kind of think it should be a major because it's definitely not an A tier. The way we're treated, the way that we're paid, like, it's such a weird thing that, you know, I've said this a couple of times now. It's like, it's such a weird thing that you have me and Kyle standing on the same stage. We just did the same tournament. We played 4 rounds at Winthrop against a stacked field that had to qualify to be there. and we played 4 rounds. We beat everybody. We're on this stage. We're signing the same autographs, and yet he's a major winner and I'm not. It's just kind of a weird juxtaposition. And I mean, I know the history of like why, you know, Throw Pink's only been there for 3 years, and it originated in COVID because we couldn't have U.S. women's. And on the flip side of that, like, I don't want to see U.S. women's go away, because I think that's a really special event in its own right, to have that many women come together and play and to be able to interact with the other divisions. And I think it's been really great for growing the women's side of the game. So I don't really want to see that go away either. So I don't know. I don't know if the solution's 5 majors, or maybe call, you know, U.S. women's an A tier for us, but it's a major for the rest of the divisions. Something like that maybe, but like I don't want to take that away from the people who worked so hard on U.S. women's, because they really did make it feel like a major this year. You know, there have been years past where I've gone and it wasn't run to the same standard as like a Champions Cup or a USDGC, and I feel like this year they really did a good job of that. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to 5 majors. Maybe it's a little weird having 5 for the women, but only 4 for the guys. Like, I don't really know how that would work out, but
they do that in golf right now. So I don't think, they stepped on one of the corgos. Yeah, they do that in golf right now. So I don't think that's a big thing of where the majors have to be. But do you think the FPO fields need to continue to increase? Like, do you want to see FPO fields that have 100+ players similar to the MPO fields?
I mean, yes, just because then the competition's better. And I think one of the reasons like MPO is so exciting to watch is because of how many good players there are. Whereas in the FPO, you know, you look a few years ago and it's like if 2 or 3 people are having an off weekend, it's just not exciting to watch. And honestly, this year with a lot of like silver events, it's like if there's like maybe 10, 12 players that if like none of them are there, it's just not exciting to watch. So I would like to see our field get bigger, but also just deeper, and see the overall level kind of continue to rise.
Yeah, that was my only kind of concern with wanting Throw Pink. Oh, we might have lost her. All right, we're going to see if we should call back in. Hey, we had her for a while. Oh, are you back?
Hey, I'm back. My internet's been a little spotty like that, so
right
sorry.
Now,
No audio.
Oh, really?
Dude, what is this thumbs up thing on my thing? What is going on? What is going on? Dude, I think this new computer has weird stuff to where if I like, bro, this is my computer's out of control. Falling on Uli's face. Okay. The question was, okay, so you want the fields to increase, and I think that makes sense, right? We all want to see a deeper field in FPO, not just like player wise, because you guys get that at some tournaments of where I think Throw Pink is one of those where you have a bigger field. But I mean, you have people that are shooting, 30 shots off the lead after round 1. So we're not just wanting to throw anyone in there. But if FPO continues to grow and we're looking to try to have more and more fields or more and more people in the field, my only concern, and maybe they do it on different weeks, but my only concern is like you can't have 240 people play out there at USDGC. You can't do it. So that's where initially I was like, maybe it'd be best to have just MPO playing out there, and then you guys have your major that you guys just play. But that course is so great. It's like, could you do FPO the week before and then MPO? I don't know how that works with the university and whatnot, but that is something to think about. I don't know what the Disc Golf Pro Tour's thoughts are on this, but I'm assuming all FPO players want the field to continue to grow. The problem with that, though, is like you can't have now 200+ people playing one course. You can't do it. So I don't know what that looks like for the tour moving forward. Just a thought out there. All right, let's break down a little bit of after your first shot on hole 18, because it gets really, really interesting really, really quickly. So you have an idea of what you need to do on 18. Did you have any clue Kristen's struggles with hole 18 when you were playing it?
No, honestly, I just assumed she was going to birdie. And so
Really?
at that point, I mean, I hadn't checked like her stats all week, really. I don't normally go check other people's stats too often. So really all I was trying to do was play the hole out kind of as normal, just with that penalty stroke, because where my lie ended up being, you know, is obviously way worse than where I was trying to land. But generally my plan is, you know, that forehand force into the side of the hill, chip a zone up to the corner just in front of the tree, and then, you know, just chip a backhand, kind of try to get it down there and look for a 4. And so I'm thinking, you know, I can still try to get a 5 here. I have to throw the zone a lot harder, or I have to go up to something a little bit faster. Felt more comfortable just throwing the zone harder. And of course, I ended up way off on the right side, almost going OB again, and then having to contend with this tree kind of in my way. And so I actually disc up to like a mid-range, because I'd been going kind of backhand zone to kind of scoot it down into the gap and just cut it a little bit too inside. And I find that kind of OB corner. And then honestly, once it was time to putt, it was kind of one of those easier putts, because like there's no, well, if you miss, it's fine. It's either you make it and you're continuing, or you miss it and it's over. So it's almost like that almost makes it easier in a way. And my putting had been great all day, so really no reason to think that I wouldn't sink the putt. And then after that, I just kind of was like, all right, Kristen's going to birdie that, and it's going to be a playoff. Like it wasn't a question in my mind that she would birdie.
Yeah, her history on that hole is actually pretty astonishing. The 6 times she had played the hole previously, she had played it at 7 over par. And her upshot, she's 5 of 6 throwing OB on her upshot. So that upshot is one she's really struggled with. But Kristen being Kristen, you know, the one time that she's going to birdie it is the one time she needs to. And now you and her are headed over to hole 1. You're having to tell the MPO players that are ready to tee off, like, hold on, we're coming in here for a playoff. You have now the whole crowd has now swarmed behind hole 1's basket onto hole 17's kind of right side. So that shot's completely different now, because you're just like staring at a group of people. Both of you guys throw great shots. It was surprising that you went first on the putting, because it kind of looked like she was a little bit farther away. Did you guys talk about who went first there?
Honestly, we were both like, it's the same. I don't know. I don't haggle over inches when it comes to putting. I'm just like, if it looks the same and I'm ready to go. And in where I was, like, you know, that downhill putt had been fire all weekend. I was like, I'll just put it in and put the pressure on her. You know, just pulled it. It was just a little bit too right. So I ended up hitting the right side cage. And then after that, I was kind of like, you know, maybe, like, I don't think her putting's been as good today. And of course she missed that. And then I was glad that I got to go first on the island. Having done 2 different playoffs now on island holes, it's definitely better to go first. For
interesting.
Sure. Yeah, okay. I think so.
So was your plan there was like, I'm just putting it on the island. You weren't trying to go.
I was trying to put it at about 35 feet. So like a range that's especially on a day like Sunday where I was putting really, really well, like that's a comfortable range. The one thing I didn't want to do is miss the island, because then it's super easy for her. She's got this big safe area over here. She can just check a hyzer. So like goal number 1, make the island. Goal number 2, put it in a range that's makeable. So I put it a little bit wider than I had in the round, landed it right at 30 feet. And then thinking, you know, if I manage to do that, if she's outside of me, she has to go first. Maybe she makes it, maybe she doesn't. If she does, easy decision, you run it. And if she doesn't, then it's kind of like, okay, do I want to push this or try to end it here? Whereas if she lands inside of where I'm at, I know she's probably going to make that, so you have to run it anyway. So 30 feet was the goal.
Yeah, and it looked like she was trying to end it right then and there. It didn't look like she wanted to play hole 18. And, you know, obviously with her struggles on that hole, it kind of makes sense of like, hey, let me just try to throw this inside of your disc. So you have to make the decision whether or not you have to throw it. She ends up turning it over a little bit. What did your heart skip a beat or so when your disc ended up hitting that pole and it's kind of like standing up a little bit on the layup?
Not really.
You weren't scared at all? Because man, watching that back, enough. I was like, oh my gosh.
The thing is, for like a second, but I don't know. I guess I've seen my disc do enough things that I was like, that's gonna sit right there. It's fine.
Okay.
So maybe like 0.1 of a second.
I saw that and I was like, oh man, that would have freaked me out. It would have been like, what the heck? All right. Last thing before we get to go, we gotta squash all these conspiracy theories. Did you have any idea what the color of the trophy was before you won?
I had
Did you
no
see
idea.
it previously?
I'd never seen that trophy.
Okay.
Never seen it.
Initially,
And that was the
I
first thing I
thought
said. I was like, it's my shirt.
when I saw the photo, I thought it was like a glass trophy. Like when the one that you're holding up in front of your shirt, when I first saw it, I was like, I think it's just a glass trophy. And I was like, I don't know what everyone's hoopla is. And then I saw the photo of you lifting it up above your head, and I was like, no, those are the same exact color designs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was you squash that. No conspiracy theory. She had no idea. It just ended up working out that way. But hey, that was absolutely awesome to watch you kind of just have your best round of the week on the one that mattered the most, and then be able to go toe to toe with Kristen in a playoff. I think the only other person that's really been able to kind of go toe to toe like that with Kristen down the wire has been like Sayananda at Texas State. It kind of seems like Kristen, when she's in a driver's seat or in a potential spot to win, she normally does. So you were able to take it down. How are you feeling going into the Tour Championship?
Pretty good. I mean, Nevin's going to play hard. I think shooting about even's going to be pretty good out there. So honestly, I'm trying to probably play a little bit more conservative. There's a few holes where, last year when I didn't make it to the finals, I think it was because I just took huge numbers and just a couple of spots in the middle and just could never recover. So really, I think the goal is going to be keep it pretty clean, try to take no worse than like a bogey here and there. And yeah, I think par golf might win it, actually. Par or like 3 or 4 under.
Okay, very nice. Do you have any pet peeves for us before we let you go? Anything maybe people what?
Like what players do, or like just in general?
It could be anything. It could be Instagram comments if you want to throw that out there. Of some people making some comments on
For
Instagram.
example,
Whatever you're feeling.
For example, my pet peeve is when I said for example, my pet peeve, my new one is when you're trying to get benefit of the doubt and they give you halfway. My newest pet peeve, the halfway mark.
Okay.
Just send me back there or put me where I think I'm supposed to be.
Okay, I guess for playing, it would be when people like are completely unaware that it's their turn. I don't know if this happens in MPO, but this happens in FPO all the time, where it'll be like everyone can see everybody's disc and they're just standing there. Like, or worse if they've got headphones in, and then they'll kind of notice everyone looking at them and they're like, "Oh, do you want me to go?" They're like, "Yeah, bro, it's your turn."
This is not helping my pace of play. This is not making this makes my heart rate raise when I hear this.
There are girls who've been on tour a while who do this, and it blows my mind. It's like,
you guys are the first ones out there. You guys are the first ones on the course. If you guys start backing it up, then we all are screwed for the rest of the day.
I'm trying, man. That's why if anyone ever asks me like, "Oh, is it me or you?" I just go. I'm tired of it. I don't wait for it.
All right, Uli, ask your question. I'm going to throw the dogs upstairs real quick because they're freaking out with our neighbors.
All right, Holyn, out of all the players that you play with, give me somebody you look at their game and you're like, that's nice. Like I wish I could do that, or pick somebody's strength that you wish you had.
I mean, honestly, the person I've probably been trying to learn the most from this year has been Kristen. I feel like that's just like a cop-out answer because she's the best. But I feel like her biggest strength is she can break down a course into shots that are super easy for her. And like that's why even on days where she's not 100% on, she still shoots really, really well. And, her worst finish is like 5th or 7th or something. It's just because her decision-making – she has like her core strengths and she sticks to them as much as possible. And I feel like, when I first came on tour, kind of getting hyped up as like a big arm or whatever, I felt like I always had to be the furthest drive, or I always had to play in a certain way. And something I've been trying to learn from her is like, now break the course down into what's your easiest shots. And then even if you're a little off, you'll still do really well on average over the 3 or 4 days.
Right. No, that's great. That's a great point. It's a good person to pick.
But I mean,
I'll
maybe
have to
maybe
I'll have to
honorable.
rewatch the episode to see who she picked.
Here,
Won't give me
can I
spoilers.
give an honorable mention?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all watched Eliezer play, but I've never seen anyone that explosive in our division. I think like she maybe even blows like Ella Page out of the water with just the explosive power she has. Like when she learns some golf and some different angles and different shot shapes, like holy crap, she's gonna be good.
Yeah, it'll be very impressive to see what she ends up doing, and maybe even bringing kind of the next generation of these young disc golfers in the FPO field. So it'd be fun to see. All right. Thank you so much, Holyn. We appreciate your 2023 Throw Pink champion, Holyn Handley. Check her out this week at the Tour Championship playing in Nevin on the Disc Golf Network. Thanks for stopping by, Holyn. We appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. All right. We, I think, have Will Schusterick in the wings. We're not going to make the 3-time USDGC champion wait any longer. We're going to get him in here. It's been a hot minute, but we have your 3-time USDGC champion, Will Schusterick. How's it going, brother?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Oh, it's going. This is
welcome,
someone,
buddy.
Yeah,
Hello,
I'm excited to have this interview. I kind of bumped into you a little bit this past week, but I think we were kind of all doing stuff, so I didn't really want to bother you at all. And I kind of had in my back of my head, like, maybe I can ask him if he comes on the podcast and we can actually have like a decent long conversation. So I'm very excited to get the opportunity of talking with you. I've got a lot to ask, so I'm just going to jump in right away. How was this past week for you?
It was fun. Even though I don't like to say like I was out there to like have fun, like everybody's there to have fun, right? Like, it's showing up and seeing people I haven't seen for a long time. Like I used to travel with them in the car for years, example being Paul. I haven't seen him in 6-8 months, something crazy like that, because people go all over the world. So it's nice to see people and my friends that I haven't seen for a long time, catch up for a little bit. It's obviously really nice to play the course, and to be seen is always nice. I really do appreciate people that have won the tournament before, be able to come back and compete for however long they want to play. I think that's a pretty cool thing. So, it was just a good week. Like I didn't have any expectation going into it, and just wanted to compete, and that was it.
I was going to ask you real quick, wait before you go, Brodie. Since you've won it 3 times, do you think maybe you could give Brodie and I the other 2 so that we could compete forever?
I'll bring my rings next time.
We'll just
hang out.
Just sneak in, be like, yeah, I got a ring, man. Let me in. Perfect. No, I was gonna say, if the PDGA is listening, maybe they can kind of take a book out of USDGC and let past champions play at the World Championships. For future
I think that's I honestly think that's a growing pain that's just got to happen. Like, there's a lot of things that's growing a lot with the sport. I think that's one of those things that's just got to be part of it. Like no matter what, if somebody wins a world championship and take Avery for an example, take anybody who's won a world title and they're 65 years old, if they can sign up, they just get exemption, rated 800. They play 1 tournament a year. It's pro world. You let them in, whatever, they're going to represent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially if we can get to like cuts, and then it's like, okay, that person's only playing 2 rounds, and then they're gone. But I think seeing past champions out there, and I want to ask you now about the skins match. Playing with Ken, Barry, Nate, like having those past champions, having that history does a lot. And coming from myself, who really wasn't paying attention to disc golf until 2020. Hearing as much as I've heard about you, about Ken, about Barry, and then seeing you guys play for the first time in person, it is something special, and that only builds. So, let us know kind of how did the skins match? First off, like how did that come about, and then just kind of walk us through your experience doing that.
Yeah, Jonathan Poole, it was kind of his idea of, wanting to put together something before the tournament was kind of the idea was actually, the initial idea was, hey, I'm going to try to put something before the tournament. People could come out and watch like they have done GK Pro skins at all the Pro Tour events. And he said he was going to try to get some of the past champions, didn't really know who was going to be there in time to be able to do it. And then it was funny that one of my friends texted me and said, "Hey, you didn't tell me about this." I was like, "Oh, thanks for telling me about it." So I knew it was going to go. I thought it was going to go on before the tournament, but after the second rounds, it's all fine. I had said, you just tell me what's going on and I'll be there. It doesn't really matter to me whether it's Monday, Sunday, Friday after the last round, whatever it is. And so the initial posting was me, Kenny Berry, and it seemed a little light. Like there's a lot of previous champions that they could have chosen. I'm very thankful that they did ask me to be a part of it. There's Brinster, Feldberg, they could have, I don't know if Nate would have ever made it to come play, but people would go out and kind of to your point, there was really not a whole lot of footage like there is now back then to watch Ken Climo and to watch Barry Schultz. And even me coming up and even winning USDGC in 2014, the footage wasn't anywhere near that it is now. Like it just is the next level. There used to be Marty McGee with I forgot his YouTube channel, Fly So High Productions, and he had the highest quality footage out there that you could watch. And now, the footage isn't even comparable to that stuff that goes on. So I think it's a big step in just teaching the history of the sport at the same time. Like, those people might have never seen Ken Climo play, and he's won however many 12 world championships, which is crazy, and they're diehard disc golf fans and has never seen one of or the greatest of all time play disc golf. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and I agree. I think having these events too for people that are curious or whatnot, maybe they see you play in person or they see Ken play and they go and they try to find some old footage of them playing and dig a little bit more into the history of disc golf. But I think having this is an event that we talked about a little bit before you got on here. This is an event that I think they have figured out. It works really well. The crowd was loving it. And it's something that you can cycle in, like the Nate Sexton spot or whatever. You can cycle in some like guys that are kind of on the way out, but not necessarily still, playing. You can cycle maybe some of those people in and still have some of these legends of disc golf playing. I think it's something very special. I watched all, I think we left after hole 17. But I watched the first 8 holes and I loved it. I loved every second. So I hope they continue to do it. Can you, for those that maybe not aren't as familiar with your career, can you kind of break down just like turning pro, if you want to start there, maybe go but earlier, kind of just like how your career in disc golf has gone?
That's all because of Paul. But crazy story. I mean, this is one of those things, like things happen for a reason. So like in 2016, my dad and I flew out to the Memorial to play the Memorial, and I played intermediate. I got 4th place. And after the round at Duke's, we went out. My dad and I were just playing disc golf, and I ran into somebody who I saw throw 500 feet for the first time ever, and he didn't even use an X step. And it was Paul and his dad and his buddy playing. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is amazing. This is incredible right now. And I met him at the first big tournament I ever went to. I still have a DX Birdie in my garage signed by like Feldberg, Sprague, Climo, Jenkins, all these players from the first tournament I ever went to, I remember. And there was Paul afterwards throwing these like massive Anheisers with what was like a CFR Wraith at the time, I think is what it was. Probably like a $400 disc now for all I know. But that he was the first person I ever saw on a course throw over 500 feet. And what's crazy is later that year, I went to Am Worlds in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I played Junior Worlds. I met Chandler Fry, and we always joke because he stayed the same size, and I've grown like a foot since 2016 Am Worlds. He was easily the biggest kid at Am Worlds. But we played together in 2016. Gage McNutt won. I remember that clearly. And then they had Disc Golf TV, for those that had no idea what that is. Shout out to the Hanson Begg family for probably the first ever like highlight website for disc golf. People don't even know what that is. DiscGolfTV.com was It was amazing. They have some of the best footage, and there's so much good archive footage. Like Disc Golf TV is an example. They had some of the best stuff. Timmy Gill and him were like doing some cool things, and that would be amazing footage to drum up. But I remember going back, and it was weeks later. It took forever to edit footage and get it online. But I was like, oh, who won? And there's Paul hitting a putt to win in a playoff to be AM World Champion in 2016. And I'm like, hey, that's the kid, but that's the guy that we saw at the Memorial. No way. And he like hit this huge putt to win AM Worlds. Like, that's amazing. What are the chances of that? We play with him at the Memorial and he wins AM Worlds in 2016. Like, that's amazing. And just going on from there, like I would just play local leagues. Like my biggest suggestion for players is what I did is play local leagues and find people that are just better than you, that are good examples on and off the course to get connected with, and just play disc golf with them. Like watch what they're doing, learn what they're really good at, learn what they're bad at, practice putting when you can, and, you know, have a good attitude and just continue to compete on the course. And that's really what I did from 2016, 2017. And then 2018, I started playing a little bit bigger and trying to travel a little bit. 2008. 2008, I started traveling just a little bit more. And I was still in high school, but 2008 and 2009, I actually got approval from my high school to miss classes because I was a professional athlete. And so I would actually get my absences excused. Kids that are in high school that are looking to play disc golf, you can use this and you're up your sleeve. I got it approved because I was a professional athlete. Like I could prove that I made money and prove that I was a sponsored player from Innova at the time and would go to tournaments. So I would miss Thursday, Friday, just about every week or every other week. And I would be the kid that came back on Monday and bought everybody a slice of pizza from the cafeteria because I made money at the tournament.
That's it.
That's so
awesome.
funny because I remember Will and this exact moment that he's talking about in 2016, 2000 or 2006.
2006. I said 2006. Yeah. 2006. Yeah.
Yeah, 2006. I remember just this little shrimper, man, and we were playing together, and I remember watching him throw and being like, "What the heck? He could throw it so straight and so good, and he just kind of hopping around." You know, it reminded me a lot of, and Will, you can attest for this, when Anthony Barella was coming up and he would follow us around, and that was you back then. And years later, he brings up the story, but I remember Will being insanely good even at that age, and me being like, I didn't know little kids were good. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so funny. I haven't thought of that moment in a long time. Thank you.
Yeah.
So where do you go from there? You're, I don't really know your history that well. So that's why I'm really curious. Are you talking with your parents about college? Are you saying, hey, I think I can make a living doing this? Like what are the decision making in high school for you now that you're actually going out and making money playing disc golf?
Yeah, and I was making money and really kind of doing my thing from 2008, 2009. So like going into my final year of high school, graduated 2010, that was kind of like the path that I wanted to go in. Like I had a 98 Honda Accord that I would drive to and from tournaments. I specifically remember before USDGC, the head gasket blown out and going to buy like a 2004 Honda Civic or something like that, whatever it is. And I just remember like, hey, I'm just going to go play tournaments. And I was never home. And you guys know when you're on tour, there's really no such thing as home. You know, maybe if you fly around nowadays and it's a little bit different, but back then you played 40 tournaments a year, 40, 45 tournaments. Like it was a grind. Like you're playing C tier, B tier, A tier, national tours every 8 weeks or something like that. Like they were massively spread out and you're just kind of waiting for that day to come around. But you would really just find your way through the tour. You would pick a spot. You heard a B tier, you know, a little honey hole would have $1,000 added, $2,000 added.
Honey pot.
That's like the honey pot. Paul knows the honey pots. Like he would go to him in the middle of Utah and be like, "What's Paul doing in the middle of Utah? Oh, first place was $1,800. Okay, what the heck happened there?" But that was the days. I mean, that was really like, you just knew of these like local TDs that could fundraise money, and they would know, hey, I really like Paul. Hey, Paul, I've got 5,000 added if you want to come out here. Oh yeah, sure. And then you would show up and there'd be a huge payout. Like that's not really like that silent anymore. Like there's a lot of events that have just grown up. There's not many honey pots out there. There might be, but it seems like back in the day, it was every single weekend you could go C tier that randomly paid out over $1,000, or B tier or stuff like that. Like A tiers were massive wins. And nowadays it's like, A tier is a good win, but it's not anything what it used to be. And so 2010 came around, and really I graduated high school, got in my car, just started driving, going to tournaments. And I never applied to college, never applied to go anywhere. Didn't really have an intention, but not like a desire, I guess, for college, because I was already had this path where I wanted to go, and saw that I knew I could make money, not necessarily long term. It was more of just young and dumb. I'm getting in my car and driving to go play disc golf. See you later type thing.
So you, at this point in time, you're not thinking like, hey, I think I can be like a world champion. I think I can win like majors. And you're just like, hey, I can just go around, play disc golf, make some cash, and live the life. Like,
yeah,
live a
not
fun
necessarily.
life.
I didn't necessarily think I couldn't win, but I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. This is like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to play every day. I'm going to practice, and I want to be the best. But I'm not thinking like, hey, like nobody's thinking long. Whether they think they are or not. When you're 18, 19, you don't think long term. It's you might think you do, but you don't at the same time. Like, you're doing what you want to do. That's kind of how it is. And so very fortunately, 18 came around, and I remember playing an A tier in Atlanta, Georgia, that I lost to Barry Schultz. I think I got third. I think I lost to Avery and Barry. And I remember calling my best friend, Big Andy, and just saying like, hey, I really feel like I can compete with the guys. Like, I feel like I could win next weekend. And I remember telling him that on the phone, sitting in my car, thinking like, I really think I can win the USDGC next weekend. And I went there and I practiced for 7 days before the tournament. First time, or it wasn't the first time going there. That was my third or fourth time, because I played it when I was 15 in 2007. I got a state qualifier. For those that didn't know, you used to get one state got a qualifying event, and one person from each state could go play. It could be anybody of any caliber, and they didn't have to give it away.
State rep,
the TD of the tournament.
Do you have to like show that you're from that state though, or could you like show up to like a dark horse state to try to win?
I think that you have to be from the state.
Okay.
Yeah. From what I remember, and the
That's
TD
interesting.
could have kept the exemption. So it's like, hey, your event in Tennessee, we're going to give away a USDGC spot. The TD could have kept it. And like,
a lot of them did.
Yeah, a lot of them did. And I just so happened to get the qualifier, and I was 15, and I think I won the open event, if I remember. And yeah, I got to play the USDGC at 15, and that doesn't happen anymore. Like, it's only qualifier at Pro Tour events or Worlds or something along those lines, but you don't get there used to be over 300 players that played the USDGC, and it's just not like that anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest changes, is like, you would go there and players would be 900 rated playing the USDGC. I bet there's people that have never been over 950 that have played USDGC 5 times or more. Because that was forever.
It sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like an absolute nightmare having those people on the course.
It was tough, man. My first time going to USDGC, I made the cut at 144th place. We had a cut, and I was 144th place. I made the cut on the dot. And my final round, I played with Carrie Berlager, Des Redding, and Angela Chickfry, and they all whipped me. I'll never forget it. Like, I was playing with these world champions, and I think the U.S. champion. And I remember going in, like, just being like, oh, I'm going to crush everybody, and they just killed me. They just threw their little 300-foot shots inbounds everywhere. I shot like a 79 or 82.
And that course was wide open compared to what we play now. That was a field. Like, that was just like, throw it wherever you want to go. like no out of bounds scenarios, like no Mando on 5. There's no OB on hole 6. No Mando on 7, no OB on 8, and a shorter basket position. I mean, you can go on and on and on.
You just chuck it wherever.
Every hole is 50% easier, I would say, honestly. Like, you could just throw it. But at the time, it was so hard. It was really like, wow, this is above and beyond what's going on. And so that's changed a lot. And I mean, honestly, going like story-wise, it was just like a blink. I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like a blink of an eye. Like I had, you miss, when you're on tour, you miss everything. So for 8 to 10 years, I missed all birthdays, all family, anything, all graduations, anybody growing up. Like, you listen to any top athlete, like that's second. It comes second. That's it. You're there to play, compete, and win. And when you're done competing, you're back training, getting ready to be the best again. And that's one of the things that kind of took me away from wanting to be on tour. I was just kind of over missing all that stuff, like building any type of life or building a future. Like disc golf was my future, but it was kind of like winding down. Ton of players getting into the sport that were playing and competing and were great. And I was just kind of over missing having a home base.
Wait, Will, you say to Big Andy, let's go back a little bit. You say to Big Andy, I think I can win. What happens after that?
I did win. That was the year I did win.
Yeah,
that's right. And and from there, it just rocket shipped. It just is. Yep. As soon as you win that, obviously everybody's in your court of, this is obviously what you need to be doing. And so just get ready. I would drive every year from Tennessee to Phoenix. I would practice for the Memorial. It would almost be like a pit stop in Vegas, and then you would drive back and play Memorial again because it was 2 days after Vegas. And that was for almost 10 years straight, 8 to 10 years I would do that. And that was just what you did. That's what everybody did.
What was it like after you won on the outside the disc golf stuff? So like the contracts, social media was kind of picking up around that time. So like what did that look like back then in disc golf, of where, I'm assuming at that point no one really this was like you kind of putting your name on the map. So what did that kind of look like, and kind of compare that to what it is now with, like an Isaac Robinson, for example?
It's pretty funny, like almost unbelievable to a point, like you win and I don't think in 2010 I don't think Instagram was around at all, but like
I want to say I started, gosh, I'm trying to think, because 2010 is right when I graduated. I think Instagram was around, but like very early.
Yeah.
Like Twitter, I think Twitter was like 2008 or something. Maybe someone can fact check me there.
I remember that year in 2011, like I really learned about promotion and marketing. I remember maxing out my friends on Facebook and being like, dang, I'm cool. Like, what's up?
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000. You're sending like, literally you can send like 500 invites or so at a time, and you're just like reminding people, hey, like you need to like my page. You need to like my page.
Yeah. So it was like making a Facebook page, starting to do more YouTube videos, I'm pretty sure I started an Instagram. Like, I remember when I was the only disc golfer with 10,000 followers on Instagram, and now it's like some people pick that up after 2 weeks, and they just
the K's big. The K was big though. I remember when I got the K, like that. Everyone remembers when you get from 9,000, 9 whatever, and then all of a sudden it's just 10K. You're like, I'm gonna get the confetti here. Maybe
I'm gonna do a little background about Willie back in the day. So our first guy who ever started promoting anything was Avery Jenkins. He was like the godfather of being very active on social media, building a brand for himself. But I specifically
is this mostly
remember
Facebook too? Is that really where it was?
Everything.
Facebook,
Everything was
and
Facebook?
a lot of it was in-person stuff. So doing clinics and growing your brand that way, bringing merch that your company stamped with your stuff on there. So Avery was the original of that. But then when Will started winning his tournaments, this guy was an absolute grinder. Like they started YouTube. He had an actual cameraman with him most of the time, filming all of his rounds. Will took it to a whole nother level as far as that stuff goes that nobody else did. I think it was, I don't know what year it was, but eventually it turned into him, Kale LaVisca, and Felberg all traveling in a baby RV and showing the world their week-to-week life and what that was like. And then they were doing clinics in every single spot. So like nowadays, we ask all our players to do social media and stuff. But back then, everybody wanted you to do clinics because that was like, you get that face-to-face. And that was like our big selling point, is to like, okay, yeah, talk in front of a bunch of people, create your fans. Will was like an absolute grinder back in the day. He was the first person to do all of that stuff. So go ahead, Will.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I remember. I mean, it was really the very beginnings of disc golf hitting that like tech boom. Like it got like technical. I remember UDisc and sending people from UDisc, like Matt from UDisc, and saying like, "Hey, your app's really cool. I've never seen an app like this." And I like posted online about it. And I remember him sending me a message and being like, "Hey, you're really the first row that's ever even noticed our app online. Like it just keeps score." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's like a cool app. Like it's a cool name and stuff." So we jokingly, every time I see Matt every now and then, is like, "Hey," he's like, "Yeah, Will was the first one that posted about UDisc like online." And now it's like next level, that's their full-time job, and they've got a massive staff now. So like, that's really like, I say tech boom, but like disc golf kind of lags behind on a lot of things when it comes to like being cool and technical and that kind of, cool looking branding instead of just like a basket in every logo, like cool branding, cool shirts, cool jerseys. Like, esports looks so cool, and disc golf kind of lagged behind a little bit when you have like, when you look at old disc golf companies, it's kind of like that's kind of stuck in the 90s for 80s, 90s for a long time. And so it took a long time to get caught up. But I do remember setting up clinics. Like I love setting up clinics. Like I love the organization of setting things up, promoting it to get people to come out, like, doing little events and signings and videos. Like I've always enjoyed doing that kind of stuff. And what's funny is I was never like an outgoing kid ever in high school. Like I was super quiet, dirty, little shrimpy, like Paul was saying, braces, glasses, flat bill hat that looked like this. My mom buzzed my hair growing up. Like that was just who I was.
Did you transition into that pretty well? Like getting the confidence of winning a major tournament like that, did that help transition you into being able to do these clinics in front of, I'm sure, dozens and dozens of people and talking in front of strangers essentially at this point?
Yeah, I would say so, because I think one of the biggest things talking in front of people is confidence. And there's a really good book out there called Who's Your Caddy? And I remember reading that way back in the day, and it talks about why people like black out or lose what they're going to say in a speech. And it's the same thing while people have like complete shank shots playing golf. And the confident side of things, your brain doesn't want to be nervous. So it really like puts something into your brain that actually numbs it, and you are numb. Like you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're doing. Like we've always done something in a tournament that's like, what did I just do? I've never done that before. Your brain is like really shutting off. And I think from the early stages of playing and being in front of people and talking and doing podcasts and clinics with a bunch of people, schools, like it's just a lot of experience and getting used to the flow of certain things. Some people are nervous to talk in front of people. I think that's similar to people nervous playing disc golf in front of a big crowd.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you look at, I was talking about the Legend Skins match and how you, Barry, Ken, I mean, obviously Sexton, he's been around, so people have been watching him the last several years. But you three guys that don't really play consistently on tour anymore. And just seeing you play, I mean, someone told me in the crowd, I don't know, you could let me know if this person was way off base, but someone told me in the crowd this might be like one of the larger crowds Climo's ever played in front of. There were a lot of people out there.
Yeah, when you look at, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and there was no nerves. None of you guys looked nervous.
Yeah, a lot of that comes down to confidence. And if you've ever talked to Climo, he screams confidence. That guy is one of the more confident people I've ever met in my life, really. I mean, talking on the broadcast booth, I didn't listen to any of the live coverage, but he's got a lot of knowledge about disc golf. And there's a lot of people that have that knowledge, but it's hard to actually communicate that to thousands of people at the same time while something is going on live in front of you. And that shows his level of confidence in the game, what he's saying, and then you put him right in front of a crowd with no warm-up, nothing, and he's just like, let's go. Parks hole one, makes the first putt like it's nothing, and then he's ripping shots. But yeah, he's really confidence is a big thing.
All right, I gotta know, what you mentioned a little bit about, you just got tired of touring. I've heard things from like injuries. You had some nagging injuries. What made you go from, being the world's greatest disc golfer to where you're not touring anymore? What happened there?
Yeah, and the first thing was I started to really get bad shoulder arthritis in my right shoulder. And I went to a guy in Nashville who trains a lot of pro golfers, got an MRI. Only time I've ever passed out was during an MRI. And and I just remember them saying, like, look, you don't have anything torn. Like there's always the opportunity to have surgery on your rotator cuff or your labrum to where they can clean it up. But, you'd be out for 8 to 12 months and there's no promise you're going to come back any better than you already were. Like you can't have surgery as an athlete and then think you're just going to come back like, hey, that fixed what was wrong, And a lot of times, unless it's completely broken or torn, you're not going to know until you like get in there. There's bone spurs or whatever is wrong in there, a torn ligament. And so I really did not find the joy in playing when my arm hurt. And it just became less and less fun from 2014 to 2017, 2018. Like I just really went declined of, yes, I was the best player in the world, but like by 2017 or 2016, 2017, like I just didn't enjoy the game like I used to. And not necessarily because I wasn't as good, but like it legitimately was not fun to practice. I could, it's not like I had no grip on, like, no, a lot of times when you have a shoulder or injury, you can't grip anything strong. Like I could tell I was losing like grip strength. I could tell I was losing distance. I wasn't confident in my backhand. And so I just kind of looked for other avenues and was like, okay, this might not be something I'm going to play, like touring and play for the next 5 to 10 years. Like I want to be able to play. I want to be able to throw a ball with my son when I get older. I don't want to not be able to move my arm ever. And so I got away, got a lot more involved in Prodigy, obviously, got more involved in doing like disc golf instruction and making more videos and doing just some other promotional stuff. And then when I really decided of getting back into it, like, kind of like 2020, 2021, it was kind of like, hey, I'm going to dabble in playing some smaller tournaments and really just kind of stay active. I kind of made the decision like, hey, if I'm going to get back into it, like I can't go down the same road, same path and just be like annoyed and frustrated. Like I remember for years, I would practice putting next to a privacy fence. Like imagine if you're putting right-handed and the privacy fence is on your right-hand side. I couldn't control my arm from not hitting the fence to the right. Like I would slam my knuckles into the fence. And so I was like, okay, I can't be doing this on, like, I'm not like bad at putting, like something's wrong here. And so I would stand next to a metal basket. And I have videos on my phone of like, okay, what is going on? Like, and it would literally just shake. Like my arm would lose total control, and it would almost feel like the arm, like the socket in your shoulder would have no type of ligament attached to it. Like my shoulder popped out or something. You going through the putting motion.
Wow.
It's almost bizarre. Like, and so it gets to a point to where it's like, you know, when you're bad and you start to, you know, not that I read into comments, but people are like, oh, he's terrible because he's using those putters. He's terrible because, oh, he's just not good anymore. Like, why would you choose to putt like that? It's like, I don't want to putt like that. Everybody wants to try to make it and have perfect form. Not everybody can do that, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that kind of weighed more into it. Like, look, I don't need like the peanut gallery to tell me like, hey, do you know you're doing that? Like, yes, I know I'm doing that. My arm hurts. Thanks for letting me know. Thanks for the heads up. So going and practicing and getting away from that, like I always like to read and get advice from people that have done it before, whether it's basketball or whatever. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that have had like shoulder impingement or shoulder arthritis or anything like that. And that's kind of what it came up happening. And so I would try to train myself putting left-handed and right-handed, because left-handed I can putt perfectly fine and I can teach myself to just putt. And so I would be in the backyard putting straddle, lefty, righty, lefty, righty. And that's really how I started to practice left-handed, was like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at putting left-handed. Like if I really needed to switch, I mean, we all could switch to a style and play and practice and probably get pretty good at it if you really want to get pretty good at it. Like if you only threw rollers and you're like, I'm a roller guy, that's it. You would be the best roller guy, you know, in a couple months. And so I was like, it's an arm, you know, it works the same, functions the same. I can practice putting left-handed, and not interested in getting shoulder surgery. And it's kind of fun when you're playing a tournament and you hit outside the circle righty and then outside the circle lefty. And yeah, that's my game right now.
So where is the, you know, after playing, what did you end up playing? You played 79 holes, right? No, you played 81 holes. You played 81 holes. What's the body feel like right now after 81 holes? You've got a couple days to recover.
Still feel warmed up, ready to roll. It's a lot of golf. I mean, like to play, you know, 7 days in a row essentially. And I say warmed up because it feels like I just got done playing like a couple hours ago and it's Wednesday. But, you know, I still keep myself in shape, still work out, still eat really healthy, still extremely active. I might not go out and grind it in the field. I drive like 30 seconds away from my house and I go throw like my bag in the field and try to stay loose. And I've got 5 baskets in my backyard with 50 putters. So I can sit around and putt all day long if I want to. So it's easy to stay loose and stay in it. But I think it's just like the mentality of the tournament is something you can't practice. You can't get that expertise or that feeling of putting for money, hey, this one matters. You're not going to get another one. Like you putt, you know, your routine, you walking up to the first putt after you haven't played a tournament for a month and you're kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I just going to putt it? Am I going to like pretend like I need to go through my motion, you know, and you're like thinking, and Paul knows what I'm saying. It's like first putt of the year. You're like, okay, what's going to be my routine this whole year? And you throw it and you're like, lining out there, like miss the first one. You're like, no, that's not going to happen. Like I can't do that this whole year after the first hole.
Yeah, it is true. No matter how much you practice the off season, that first putt, which is now going to be in Florida, which is weird to say because normally it's in Vegas, but that first putt, you always step up. It's always nice to throw one under the basket on hole 1 because you don't know what's going to happen with that first putt of the year. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we're going to see more of you next year? Like where are you at on tournaments wise?
I think the easy answer is it's hard to get into tournaments. It's pretty difficult to sign up for Pro Tour tournaments. I mean, they fill up really fast. There's a good bit around where I live. Like Florida's not that far for like the opening of the year, but just to sign up for tournaments is difficult. You know, whether it's your rating or it caps out, there's however many people are rated a certain amount and then it fills it up and then you're on the wait list. And so I'm always at like Jonesboro, Waco, you know, Preserve, like those are three pretty obvious ones that I could easily most likely play. But getting in them is another one. Like, is there a sponsor exemption? Is it not filled up, but you can just sign up and play? Is there, I think they're having qualifying events before, something like that. Or they did anyways. But there's also a ton of tournaments around here where I live. Like Music City Open is 3 hours away. You know, anything within 7 hours is not that bad of a drive.
Now, let's just say theoretically, you know, Jeff Spring is hearing this and is like, oh, wait, Will's thinking about wanting to play in tournaments. What if there was some sort of like exemption that he could give you to be like, hey, any tournament next year on tour you want to play in, you can play in. If that was the scenario, what does 2024 look like for you?
I still can't imagine going tour life. Like if it was something in that scenario, I would look at a calendar and try to plan out going to those events, seeing what that looks like on like a real schedule, and seeing like, hey, I'm going to fly out Tuesday, I fly back Monday morning, something like that. Whatever it is, it's like I would have to look at it and actually see a real schedule. Like obviously they posted it, you could really plan it out, but you know, I don't have any intentions of going back on tour and, you know,
do you miss it?
Is just next level.
Will?
Huh? Did you say, I miss it?
Do you miss it? Do you miss the tour? Yeah.
I miss some aspects. I do. Yeah. You know, I enjoy grind. I enjoy to be out there and practicing hardcore. I don't miss not being home. You know, I can't imagine going a week without seeing my 2-year-old son. And, you know, when you listen to a lot of people talk about kids growing up, you really have 4 or 5 years until they create their personality. So you got to really soak in every hour that you have until they're really going to school. And once they're going to school, they're at school 5 days a week. And so I like to just soak in everything about that. Honestly, I can't imagine not being here with my wife, my son, my house, all that kind of stuff. Like, could I play a pro tour event a month? Like I could see something like that. And there's some other local events that I could compete at. You know, I still envision myself making more videos and promotions and that kind of stuff. Like teaching disc golf, I think is something that I'm almost more interested in than competing and playing, because it's really rewarding. And one of the only reasons why I enjoy, you know, social media period is people coming up and saying like, hey, you're the reason why I even play disc golf. You're the reason why I even learn to throw. Like that goes a long way. Like, you know, for me, there were adults that grabbed a 13, 14-year-old me in Knoxville and changed my life. So it's like, if I can make a 5-minute YouTube video that gets 700,000 views and people comment, wow, this makes me enjoy the sport more. Like that to me is like way more rewarding than playing events. It just is like where I enjoy and see that return in giving back the same way that the sport gave back to me.
Yeah, I think some people maybe listening to this are maybe on the maybe we're a little selfish in wanting you to, you know, play more events. And I think sometimes I think it's easy sometimes to just be like, oh, it's not that hard for you to just like go out and play the OTB Open. And, you know, when you have a family, when you have a home, you're like, man, it is tough to kind of just get away for a week and then come back. Like that's not easy to do. And just hearing you talk about the grind that you've already done on tour and then like taking a break from that, it can't be easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to jump right back into doing that same old of where I'm just on the road for, you know, 30 weeks of the year or whatnot. Might even be more now with how the tour is, you know, pushing it super late into the season. So yeah, I mean, I think we would all love to see you, especially at some of the bigger events, right? If you can make it to some of the majors, and like you were saying, some of the Waco, Preserve, some of those events as well. Because I mean, I watched you throw, dude. You can still compete. I don't know what these comments are telling you otherwise. I told Uli the throw that you had on hole 3 That was by far the farthest throw I've seen on that hole ever. And then the putt that you made on hole 2, people were telling me that you're playing left-handed, and you walked up and banged like a 45, 50 footer on hole 2 for a skin. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So, I think I speak for a lot of people saying like we would definitely probably love to see you play in more events if it is at all possible.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Like I love, it's always funny making a post online and the first comment is when you're going back on tour. Like that's the first comment, right? Like that's and I can appreciate people wanting me to play. Like it's heard and it means a lot that people care to want to see me go out there and play. And I know, like you said, like there's life, there's priorities. I would of course love to be able to just, hey, everybody hop in an RV and let's go play 30 tournaments a year, but that's pretty unrealistic. I think realistic is, 5 really big tournaments, 4 or 5 big tournaments, like pro tour level tournaments, maybe worlds if you can even get into it. And USDGC is like a good way to look at it.
That'd be sweet. That'd be awesome.
What about sorry, Brodie.
No, go.
One of the things you were talking about is how cool was it when Gannon won last year and he was posting himself as a little kid, watching you, and then there's posts about him and you being his favorite player. I always think that that's crazy to think how long we've been playing, but especially you. I mean, I guess being his favorite player and you having some sort of influence on a kid like that, and now that's the future, and designing his whole entire game, around you and wanting to be like you, that's got to feel special. And then that kind of leads into another question. It was funny. We played together this week, and it was like it was show and tell for me because we're playing with these guys, and I'm like, watch this guy throw. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, wait till you see what I'm dealing with out here, And we're like looking at each other like, what the heck was that? These guys are just ripping it so far. What is that like to see like the progression of the game? Just in the last few years.
It's pretty wild, and just to reiterate on the Gannon situation, like that's exactly what I'm referring to. Like, one, I remember taking the video. I remember him walking around 2015 USDGC, walking around with me in the rain, the last round. I remember this kid clapping every single shot I threw. And I was like, I was on like the 4th or 5th card, so there's really not like that big of a gallery. I was like, that's really cool. This kid's walking around. And so I went out of my way and I gave him a disc out of my bag and took a picture with him, which is like, the picture that we took on hole 18 that you're talking about. And, that kind of stuff to me is more rewarding because that was me. That was me, and not that shaped Gannon's career by any means, but if it just did in the smallest amount, like, that goes to show a lot of players now that are out there playing and traveling. Like when you see young kids and you see anybody, like, we're just a blip, me growing up and playing for 8 to 10 years. Like I'm just a blip. Everybody playing right now, like is, live it every single moment. Like it is your last, but remember that. And it's going to go by in a snap of a finger, but you can affect the people coming up for having that next generation. And that's still where disc golf is. Disc golf is still in that next generation phase. Like it's not the golden age by any way. It's still growing so fast. And we played with 2 players from Europe, and one of them said, "We're on hole 5," and he's like, "Hey, do you remember me? Like we're on hole 5." Like, yeah, we're playing together right now. We're on hole 5. He's like, "No, I met you 8 or 10 years ago in Europe at a clinic. I went to a clinic you and Seppo did." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that's like. Blows me away. And then I watch him throw and it's like ripping it to the side of the hill on hole 12. And it's like, hey, sorry guys, Paul and I are only going to throw it like 400 feet. We'll try to be safe, but we'll keep it moving for you guys. Okay. Like, so sorry, we couldn't keep it up for you. Yeah. They could just blast it, but it was just so 4 or 5 holes in. And he's like, "Hey, you remember me?" I'm like, no, I don't know. I have no idea. But then I was like, man, you kind of looked familiar, but a lot of Europeans kind of look familiar. It's like hard to remember their names and their last names. Like, unless you see them a bunch, it's kind of hard to really make it stick out because you don't see them on footage or photos or anything like that. And it's just unbelievable how, I used to go over to Finland and do 6 clinics. I'd be there for over a month, and we would go to different towns, a new clinic every day or every other day. We would do a signing and a clinic in the same day, a signing and a clinic in the same day. And then we would go to Estonia. I remember meeting Silver and Kristen in Estonia and playing the Estonian Open. And they were just I remember Silver was into it and Kristen was just kind of getting into it, if I remember. Could be wrong, but that seems right. And I mean, that's 8-9 years ago right now. And it's just, that obviously there's a lot of history. You could go on and talk about stories like that, but just a littlest thing can have the longest term effect, especially when you have or at the level of a top player, and I think for the kids that are now playing as pro disc golfers should really be thinking of like, hey, what can we do to really use my status of whatever champion to give back a day of the month to grow the sport, or 2 days of the month to grow the sport. There's a lot of new things that are going on that weren't going on back then, like the whole UPlay stuff, like that never existed back then. Like if a pro went to a school to teach disc golf, it was like major news. Like that almost never happened at all, right? Like it was a pretty big deal, and that's happening all the time. Like I saw a school bus show up to go to the preserve. It's like, what in the world? How many kids are coming out here right now? Like that's almost unbelievable that stuff is happening. But it's just what is going to get disc golf to the next level. That's why it's on ESPN. That's why it's on CBS. That's why they have more sponsors. That's why there's more eyeballs, more followers, all that kind of stuff. You just have to continue to build the eyeballs on the sport.
Yeah, that's well said. All right, before we do appreciate you giving us the time. Before we let you go, though, if you're not familiar with the show, we always ask pet peeves. We always ask, what are some things? And actually, from you, it'd be really great to know some maybe pet peeves that don't exist anymore, but used to exist in disc golf. I think that would be fun for some of our listeners. Of like, what are some things that happened in disc golf? When you were first touring or first playing. They might not happen anymore. People might not remember them, that you could bring to light that maybe got under your skin or whatnot, or you're just like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, and for those that know me well, know I have a lot of pet peeves, but the one that doesn't exist anymore is long award ceremonies. That's probably the most annoying thing on the planet.
I totally forgot about those.
Hours. Yeah, nobody knows what an award ceremony is.
Hours?
Dude,
hours?
Are you kidding me?
Wait, what?
We're talking
there
about
were raffles and there were
tier, CTP, A spot throw-offs, 27th place in MA4. Here we go.
And are you at the end? Like the big winner is the very last one?
I specifically remember being at many tournaments where they wouldn't do pro until their last. You'd be like, hey man, I got to drive 12 hours to a tournament. They'd be like, I'm not giving you your money. We don't do PayPal. I got cash for you, and that's it. And they're like, you got to wait. I'm sorry. And now it doesn't exist anymore. And so you're like, hey man, I got to go. I got a big tournament I got to go to. Like, sorry. And so everybody gets their prizes and leaves. And in a 100-person B tier, there's 5 people left, and they're like, first place in open men. And then you go there, and you're like, well, thank you guys. And then you hit the road.
Speech.
Yes.
Like the one drunk guy in the back. Oh man.
That's at that point, everybody was drunk in the back, Brodie. We were there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
When you said that, the first thing that popped in my head was the this year Worlds opening ceremony, where it was just hours of someone just talking about their Olympic sport, but that's a different thing. Uli, hit him with the last question.
Yeah, so we'll do throwback. Back in the day when you were playing a bunch and competing with the best players in the world at the time, who did you look at with a little jealousy as far as form or putting, sidearm? Who back then were you always like a little bit envious of? I wish I had that skill.
Okay, for 1 year, it was Nate Doss, because I got top 4 in every major, every national tour, and Nate beat me in every single one of those events. He beat me in every single one. Worlds, USDGC, every single national tour. He beat me in every single one. And he made every putt. He threw every drive. He never threw it far, but he could do everything. And he would park it. He would never bogey. He wouldn't shoot 1100, but he would shoot 1070, 1070, 1070, 1070, and you would lose by 5. I'll never forget.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He beat me literally every single tournament.
Did he ever win USDGC?
Yes.
He would be my oh, yeah, you know that year well. He would be my vote for this Legends skin match. He would be awesome to see come out and play.
Yeah, because that's another person, 3-time world champion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people.
I think you might have mentioned him at the beginning, but I think a lot of people that are in disc golf now have never seen him play in person.
Yeah, I mean, and to say on his game, like, he watched Climo and played with Climo. Like, I didn't play with Climo a whole lot. I played with Barry. Barry was around for a lot longer than Climo. I played with Barry a lot. I haven't really played with Climo a whole lot. And Nate mirrored his game around Climo. Like, he played against him a lot. Like, I remember Disc Golf TV playing in Santa Cruz at the Masters Cup. And I think Nate was 18 or 19, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember he was the kid on tour.
Wow. Yeah. So maybe we can get word out to Nate to it'd be a little bit of a flight for him, but I'm sure everyone would really appreciate him coming out and playing. All right. Well, Will, do you have anything else? Give you now, maybe, if you want to shout anything out, anything that's going on. I'm sure tons of people listening right now would love to somehow support you or your family or anything like that.
Yeah, there's really nothing. I don't have, signature series discs like a lot of these players have. And, I'd like to, I guess my only final comment would be for all the, like I had already said earlier, there's not a new players out there, and building a brand, building your name goes a long way, but just think that you can affect one person's life by making a simple gesture of giving a disc away, teaching them how to play, bringing them to the course. And in 10 years, there's going to be that next, for me, it was Gannon. Like, I just ran into him and boom, there he is, and you have these little seeds where you go.
For me, it was Will.
Right. And it's true. Like, you just never know who you're going to connect with and what they could end up doing. And so when you travel around and you get the best job in the world to be a pro disc golfer, and you travel around, and it really is one of the best things you could ever choose to do. Counted, you can make money at it and like to travel around and stuff, but you should really consider you're leaving seeds everywhere you're traveling. And one of those is going to become the next amazing player. And it takes a little bit of time, not a lot, just a really little bit of time to affect somebody's life. And you get to run across a lot of people. So take a little time and give a disc away, teach a kid to play, try to link up with the school, do a clinic, whether it's for 5 people or 50, it could make a big difference.
Love that. Well, you're an incredible ambassador for disc golf. I know everyone listening, we are so happy and fortunate to have someone like you, a champion that has stuck around and done so much for the sport. So we really appreciate it, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your night, your busy week, I'm sure, after playing all week, to come on here and chat with us. I know everyone really appreciated that, and we did for sure as well. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Of course. Have a wonderful night, man.
Okay.
All right, your 3-time USDGC champion, Will Schusterick, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
How cool is that?
That was cool, man. That was cool. Going a little bit down memory lane. Yeah. That was pretty sweet, man. That was pretty sweet. And I just loved his message there at the end. One where it's like, man, we are in like obviously right now you can see all the growth and see all the incredible stuff, and you maybe can get wrapped up in it. But you got to remember too, like we are in a stage right now of where we got to keep getting people excited. And that's a great message for not just everyone on tour, but just everyone in disc golf of like, hey, let's just keep spreading this sport around, keep telling people about it, and get people out throwing the disc and enjoying it. So that was awesome. That was freaking sweet. All right, let's run through the MPO side of things on USDGC. So King Climo in the booth got rave reviews from everyone that I've seen, everyone that's talked to me about the coverage. Everyone said absolutely loved it. These are some of the quotes that he had. He said, "I would trade all my championships for the people I've met and the places I've been." I think that's how he opened up either day one or day two, which just kind of shows you how maybe one of the more winningest players in disc golf history is willing to kind of give that all up for all the experiences that he was able to have on tour. And then also someone did ask him about, hey, are we going to hear more from you? Because obviously people want to hear more from him in the booth. He said he's most likely only going to do big events in the future. He wants to travel with his family. He did enough traveling without them. So he said he could end up doing 2 or 3 events a year. So I think we for sure see him at USDGC next year. Could we also see him at Worlds? That would be awesome, right? We could maybe see a King Climo at Worlds, which would be an incredible experience, I think. So that was Climo in the booth. Let's throw this clip up. Someone went back in the archives and found this clip. This was after the final round, after Kyle Klein just ended up losing round
place, but
one.
I'm sure that tomorrow we will
maybe play it after I start talking,
good
so I
side of
don't
the
talk
coin.
over it. But this is Kyle Klein playing his interview after he just lost the European Open by 1.
So maybe now we are a bit sad for the second place, but I'm sure that tomorrow we will see the good side of the coin.
There's 2 more majors left in the year. I'll check one of them off.
It will.
So he kind of just shrugged off the loss a little bit and stated that there's 2 majors left, and he's like, I'll just knock one of those off, and then he ends up doing it. That's pretty baller. That's a cool clip to come back to. But I said at the beginning of the show, have we been sleeping on this kid at this course? He has only finished top 10. He's played it 3 years, has only finished top 10, 5th, 2nd, 9th. It's kind of a USDGC killer.
I think that the kind of the whole world's been sleeping on him for a little bit. He was injured in the middle of the season with some sort of injury. He missed a couple tournaments.
I think
before that, I mean, last season, he had a great season last year. If you watch him play, he doesn't have a weakness, and he's got like kind of an underdog aura about him, where he kind of slips under the radar, and that he can use that to his advantage big time, because everybody's talking about Ricky and this person, and then all of a sudden it's just like Kyle Klein's just throwing perfect shots over and over and over again. And to like, when I do the eye test on him, he's so smooth. He might be the smoothest player in the game. And not only that, he doesn't get up and he doesn't get down when he's playing. Like, it seems like his mental game is on lock as well. So I don't know. Before this tournament started, he was one of my favorites to win, only because he was kind of trending, and he just has that kind of game for it.
Yeah, I mean, he was very impressive all week, and you're right. He has this, like, the way I would describe it is like almost like a silent killer. He's not the guy that's gonna like step up onto the tee and everyone be like, oh my gosh, like you just turn your head, you can't look away. He draws your attention in. But the dude is super confident in what he can do. And I just think whatever he's got going on, how he plays works really well for him. And man, yeah, watching him play, it just doesn't ever seem like he's going to mess up when he's on like this. And the way he attacked those holes starting the final round, even with that lead, that made me believe like he's not afraid of the moment, right? He could have definitely played a lot safer in some of these shots. Let's talk hole 5. That was the big swing, right? Hole 5, you have Bradley Williams, who is like pinched off by a tree. He knows he has to keep pushing. He throws an incredible shot to give himself a putt. And then Kyle throws this backhand that lands like 4 feet from the basket. Now, he did get a fortunate skip because it ended up hitting and kind of not skipping OB like most shots do in 5. But he's attacking the basket. He's not swinging that thing out and playing for like a 45-footer. He's going after the basket. The interesting quote from this was Bradley said, he goes, "I think I threw my shot a bit too good. I got put in a kind of an awkward situation where I needed to make that putt to keep the gap close. It ended up being a bad position to go for that putt." So he was in that like limbo land of where it's like, I'm too close to the basket not to try to make this. But by trying to make it, he ends up losing an extra stroke by going OB. But hole 10, you get to hole 10, no hesitation from Kyle. Bradley plays his normal like layup playing for birdie. He's going for it. He's not changing the game plan. He's just sending it. He was 7 under on hole 10 too. 7 under. He got the eagle 3 times. 3 times. I guess he probably laid up that super windy round, would be my guess, when it was crazy windy. He probably didn't go for it there and just took the birdie. But playing that whole 7 under is absolutely insane. And then he ends up getting to hole 16 on the tee pad. He's got a 7-shot lead. Now, when you get to hole 16, Uli, what lead would you want to have to where you're like, I'm comfortable?
On 16?
Yeah, you step up to hole 16. How many strokes do you want to have at hole 16 that you can play around with coming with 17 and 18 coming up?
Me personally, I would love to have, I feel like I'd be pretty safe with 4 shots.
4 shots. So it's like I can give 2 away on 17 or 1 away on 17 and 2 away on 18 is what your kind of mindset is.
With that mentality, I think I can lay 16 up, play it for par. I can lay 17 up, play it for par, and then have 2 shots going into 18 if they go birdie. That would be my That would be like ideal situation. Now, how many do I want? 12.
All of them.
12.
I want all of them. Yeah, I mean, you step up on hole 16, and you think like 7-shot lead, it's over. But if you've ever watched this tournament, it's never over until you get off of 18's basket. Like it is never over. And Kyle ends up making it very, very interesting. He ends up making it very interesting by he bogeys 16. He kind of throws the same shot on 16, 18 that ended up kind of taking some strokes for him going OB. Bradley plays the last 4 holes at 3 under par. So Brad plays the last 4 great. And Kyle ends up kind of putzing around, if you will, a little bit on 18. Now, I will give him, what were your thoughts on his play on 18, Uli? Because he said afterwards, once he went OB after his drive, he said, I just want my disc to get up there. And if I am going to go OB, I want to go OB far and to the right. Do you like that kind of aggressive play when you have that many strokes to play around with there?
I do. I think if you have that many strokes, what I would have loved to see is him just take a backhand off the tee and throw it as far as he can. Whether it goes in the woods, like even throw a hyzer into the woods, because then from there you can throw another hyzer out of bounds and then just go chip. Like we're looking at so many strokes. That's I wouldn't even want to off the tee throw one short. the farther you get up there, the easier it is to access the green, and you're dealing with a lot of shots. So that's what I would have been thinking probably. But yeah, he rolls it out of bounds, throws the next one OB. Listen,
like,
it wasn't.
oh boy.
Everybody's like talking about how it's a one-shot victory. It wasn't close. Like it was not close. Like he threw it out of bounds all over the place, and then he had 100-foot up shot, and then he could lay up a 20-footer. Like the guy was in control the whole time. I'm sure in his mind he's counting it up though. He throws the first one OB, throws the second one OB, and he's probably looking at his hands like, is it possible? Like what did I just do? Type thing. But he got the job done. I mean, he did all his work early, which is what you have to do. It seems like winners there do their work early. Gannon did it early. I remember watching a replay of Sexton's win. He was up like 7 early. And then Kyle he shot 6 under on the front 9 with a spit out and a missed 25-footer on hole 2 or something, or on hole 1.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. That middle section, hole 4 through 11, Kyle was 28 under par for the tournament. And then holes 1 through 3, 12 through 18, he was 1 over par. So he got all his strokes right there in that middle section, just played it incredibly well. And yeah, I mean, he earned it. And like we said, if you've been following him, he's been due for he was a surprise to win it, but then like once I started thinking about it, I'm like, I shouldn't be surprised that he won this tournament. Like the dude can ball out. We've seen him ball out at other courses. Idlewild, right? He took Idlewild down in a thrilling fashion in that playoff. And then we've seen him play really well here as well. So we shouldn't be surprised, but I think you're right. I think people have really kind of underestimated his season so far and how well he's played. And we have another first-time major.
Second at the European Open too. That goes a long ways.
Yeah, I think people kind of forgot about that a little bit. But okay, some interesting stats here. This was the first time ever that 0 former winners were in the top 15 of the tournament, and no major winners were on lead card or chase card. So it was like all kind of just people that have never really been in a position or someone that hasn't done it before. We're all in these positions. Looking down here, you got Bradley Williams taking second. Really good for him. I mean, great tournament from Brad. Finished with a 7 under final round. Isaac Robinson, there goes that man again. 3rd place. The guy's a major killer, dude. If it's a major, you got to watch out for Isaac Robinson, shooting a very good 10 under round, moving up 10 spots into a tie for 3rd place with none other than Simon Lizotte, his best finish ever at this tournament. 3rd place, Simon Lizotte, best finish.
Yeah. His first ever
rounding
top
out
10.
Wow. Rounding out the top 10, you have Calvin Heimberg, Joel Freeman. Joel Freeman, kind of at the beginning, I was thinking like, wait a second. Like, is he going to pop off here? He ends up kind of struggling after shooting 54, 55. He ends up going 66, 59 on the weekend. So he really struggled on round 3 when it was really windy. Wasn't able to kind of finish it off. Nicholas Antilla, 2nd place finisher. Good finish for him in 7th. Also with the Gooseman, Aaron Gossage, a great finish for him, 7th place. And then rounding it out, you have Eagle McMahon, who we've talked about. His end of his season has been, I mean, I don't know if anyone has had a better end of their season as far as consistency from tournament to tournament than Eagle. And then Chris Clemens finishing up there, the top 10. Ricky just missing out on a top 10. I think he had some crazy streak going. A top 10s at this tournament, just missing it out by 1 stroke, finishing in 11th place. Couple things to shout out. Sullivan Tipton got an ace on lead card, his first ever lead card. at a major, got an ace on hole 7, made Sports Center. Shout out to Sullivan Tippin. That's a pretty cool memory to have. It means 21 years old. Pretty dope. Dave Feldberg, dark horse played with a kidney stone. I mean, did you see this photo here?
Yes.
Have you ever had a kidney stone? I've never had a kidney stone, so I have no idea what the pain is, but I've heard it's painful. I mean, I was in pain just playing that course without a kidney stone, so I can't imagine what pain he was in playing it with a kidney stone. So hopefully he's all good with that. But man, talk about all these people that DNF because of the dude just played with a kidney stone. So take that into account. Any news on Big Germ? Jeremy Colling, DNFs, knee injury. You got any news of what's going on there? Is he having to do surgery? What's the recovery look like?
I played with them yesterday at our practice round for, or not yesterday for the practice round for Jomez, and he seemed in good spirits. He was limping around a little bit, said it was something to do with his meniscus, that it happens from time to time, and he said after a week or so he should be okay.
Oh, nice. So no surgery. Okay, very cool. Awesome. Chris Dickerson does like a rolls his disc, like just morphs it through a tree. That was like another highlight, that there was just like almost it reminded me of like a Dude Perfect trick shot where they're throwing like the CD, like the game CD into like the game console, and it just perfectly fits in. He throws a roller on hole 8, it just morphs right through a tree. That was pretty nuts. Shout out to this guy. Hole 15 spotter took one to the dome. I don't know if it was a deflection or whatnot. Let me see get his name right. Allen. Shout out to Allen. Got some stitches here on hole 15. Took one to the dome. I think this is the second time it's happened. I think this happened last year as well. We might not need a spotter there, or we need to like maybe put them in some sort of like protective gear, like riot gear or something, because that is a very dangerous hole. And I don't know, maybe that's just like something that's known on the grounds of USDGC, is like if you're doing the spotting on hole 15, you're like the most hardcore volunteer of all of them, because man, that
they
just
send
rough.
all the rookie volunteers to 15.
They have no idea what they're getting themselves into.
From 15.
Gosh. Past 5 MPO winners: Kyle Klein, Isaac Robinson, Corey Ellis, Isaac Robinson again, Gannon Burr. Who wins next out of that group?
Kyle Klein.
All right. Kyle Klein. I'm gonna go with Isaac Robinson. But that was it. Did you have any other stories from the MPO side? USDGC 25th anniversary?
No.
Okay, we're moving on. Quick shout out. Last thing, USDGC. Quick shout to Ellie Ezra. I think I'm saying that right. Uli, is that correct? Ellie Ezra? 16 years old. Watching her, I think Kristen Tatar is doing a whole lot for the game right now. I think someone like her playing can have an astronomical movement for FPO, because watching her throw, you can't help but to think like, holy cow, like that could be what we see in the future. Just people ripping the disc. And she's super. Holyn kind of talked to her a little bit about her. Super explosive. Really cool to see her. She definitely struggled the final day. Had her, she shot 63, 65, 68, and then has 74. Final round, lead card. I mean, I'm not surprised by any means, but finishing top 10 at this tournament with the field that was there. I think some great things are to come from her. And again, like I said, 16 years old, like crushing it the way that she does. Very exciting. Very exciting. All right. Let's jump to Ricky's world rankings. This was asked by Dark and Stormy. He said, thoughts on Ricky's top 10 players list. What would you change? Okay, so we'll look at Ricky's first, and then we'll go over at what UDisc has and see how close they are. So Ricky has at number 1 in the world, Calvin Heimberg. Number 2, Isaac Robinson. Number 3, Eagle McMahon. Number 4, he has himself. Number 5, Gannon Burr. 6, Matty O. 7, Kyle Klein. 8, Bradley Williams. 9, Paul Macbeth. 10, Aaron Gossage. What looking at this list, what are your thoughts here?
I would switch Bradley Williams, I believe, with give me 1 second. Let me make sure my stats are correct here.
Yeah, you're good. The ones that aren't in the top 10 that are in the top 10 on UDisc, there is only one, and that is Simon Lizotte. Simon Lizotte is 4th in the world rankings on UDisc, and Aaron Gossage is not in the top 10. Aaron Gossage is actually 11. So he just has Gossage as 10, and then Simon Lizotte not in there at all. I don't hate the top. But I think the top 3 are pretty close to probably what I would have.
I would personally knock Matty O down. I would knock Bradley Williams out. I'd put Simon in front of Matty O. And I would then knock Gossage out and put Nicholas Antala in there.
Ooh, Nicholas Antala. Interesting. Okay.
Solid performance, USDGC, solid performance at the European Open, and he's the European champion.
Mm-hmm. He's 14th right now in UDisc, so not that far outside the top 10. But yes, interesting. I don't. Maybe he just forgot. I feel like he maybe just forgot Simon. I feel like Simon. I think you have to put Simon.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to save. I said we're going to talk about the tour schedule. We're going to save that. We're going to keep pushing it back because you know what? The tour's not happening for a while, so we can't. We're going to push the 2024 Disc Golf Pro Tour schedule back a little bit. Few more things here. Crazy. I'm calling this the crazy of the week. This was posted by Tim Morrow in the Charleston disc golf community. He said, this guy found my disc and he sent me a video of him taking a hacksaw and cutting it in half. I'll investigate and find out who he is. It will not be pleasant. Have you ever heard of a story of, it's one thing to like text the person to be like, hey, is this your disc? And then be like, yes. And then you just like ghost them and you don't respond. The guy took a video of himself cutting this in half and then sent the video to the guy. I don't know what the context is. Like, did he hit his house? Like, there has to be some sort. You can't just find a disc and do that, right? Like, there has to be something here that we're missing.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of.
Like, how many people did he go out and buy a hacksaw? I feel like not that many people own a hacksaw. That's not like a common thing to have like in your garage. Could be a future trophy though. I am done rating. I've retired trophy rating, but yeah, I don't know what to say. Shout out to Michael Johansson though. It looked like it was a Tour Series comment.
I would tell him, you know what? Just let it be. That's what I would say. Let it be.
Yeah, I don't know if that's someone that you want to get involved with. I don't know if you want to try to figure out who this person is. Gosh. Quick shout out also to Andy Green. This was a story that was covered by All Too World. Andy Green is the announcer. You have heard his voice. If you've been to USDGC, you have heard his voice on hole 1. He has announced this is the exact number, 13,875 names. And after 25 years, he has decided to end the crazy streak that is, man. He has literally called every single champion that has won. And a fun little fact for maybe like in the future, if someone wants to do trivia, the last name Andy Green ever called was Joel Freeman. Fun little fact there. So shout out to Andy Green for doing that. That was, man, that's a heck of a run. All right, we got to talk about this Eagle situation. Eagle just drops in the press conference today that he's on October 26th, which is, today's Wednesday, October 11th. He's going to be having another surgery on his labrum.
I heard about this earlier this year. I think I mentioned it on here that something was going on.
Maybe off season wise. Yeah.
And then bam. Yeah. Good. Get healthy. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. He mentioned in it that he feels like doing this surgery could kind of help clean some things up, make him able to get a little bit bigger of a, range of motion, which he then said, who knows, maybe next year I'll come out and throw 400 and 450 foot sidearms. So if that's the case, we might be in for a long season with Eagle coming back with the power forehands. All right, Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship goes down this week, October 12th through 15th in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's back at Nevin. It's got a record-breaking purse, $322,000. Uli, you're playing in the tournament. Any thoughts?
It's hard. It is a hard course. Let me tell you, I played yesterday for the practice round with Jomez. I shot a legit 13 over par.
Sound like my last round at USDGC.
This place is tough, man. I did the press conference today too, and they asked me like, what's the game plan? And I said, you don't have a game plan going there. You have to throw tough shots over and over and over again. And I really think that's the case there. That place is gnarly, man. I was happy that I shot 13 up so that I know exactly what it's capable of, going into tomorrow. I hope I can knock about 15 strokes off of my practice round, but it's tough. I mean, we're in for a treat this weekend. It's going to be a battle for sure. No matter who wins it, they're going to earn every single dollar that they make, because I think that's the hardest course that we play all year.
Wow. Yeah, there was some, I think it might've been Isaac or someone else mentioned that they think it might be harder than Northwood Black this year because they did stretch out some of the holes. So we'll see. It's going to be a scramble fest. It's going to be who can get up and down from really, really tough spots. So definitely check that out. That'll be on the Disc Golf Network, playing for $40,000, I believe, first place. All right. Joey Beans, he wants to know, what are your thoughts on TDs charging a high entry fee for AMs so they can increase the cash price for MPOs?
That happens?
Joey Beans. I mean, he doesn't seem like a liar. I don't know the guy, but I'm going to go off. I'm assuming this is the tournament that he played in. Otherwise, he's just thrown out a crazy hypothetical that I've never thought about. Because this sounds like it would cause chaos.
Yeah, it sounds like chaotic, but I would say do a little research if you're an AM. Know what you're getting in your players pack. If you're playing for prizes, know what you're going to be playing for prizes, and then make your choice from there. After that, I mean, you're playing for merch essentially if you're getting payout. So that money can go wherever the tournament director wants, I believe. Hopefully he's paying off the costs of whatever the prize money is. That's usually what happens is, you get your discs from whatever manufacturer if you're playing for prizes or trophies or whatever, and then you distribute after that. And then sometimes they'll add cash to the open purse. But I mean, if you're not getting anything and they're just giving all your money to the pros, that sounds crazy to me. Kind of awesome.
That doesn't sound like a tournament that great for the AMs, but great for the pros, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe change divisions. Maybe move up a division there. All facts, please. He asks, you have discussed pace of play issues. What do you think of using electric carts to speed things up? Would it? I have a Bat Caddy, which is a 3-wheel cart with a motor that is designed for golf. It works okay for disc golf. I would love to have one designed for disc. All right, if we're talking strictly here about, me just going out in a practice round or like just playing casually, and I have like some sort of motorized cart that I can jump on or like a little scooter, that sounds incredible. I would probably buy the crap out of that. I would love that. This sounds terrible for the tour, and let me tell you why. It's your first year playing. You're going out. Uli's your biggest. You're Uli's biggest fan. You cannot wait to watch Uli. You get on hole 1. You're staying there watching him. He throws his tee shot 500 feet down the fairway, and then all of a sudden Uli jumps on a scooter and he's gone. And now, like, you just lost him. Yeah, you can't walk fast enough. It would be terrible for It would be terrible for spectators. You get to see like one shot and then they're just gone. So I don't think that's
everybody's playing so fast.
I don't think that's the future of pro disc golf, but I think I could see that definitely on like casual rounds, people just zipping around on little scooters. Last question here from Wes. I'm sure you all will address this, but what are the off-season plans for the pod? All right, we're going to address this now. So Silas is done with school or with whatever he had. I think it is schooling, right, Silas? Your schooling is Tuesday nights. That's why we're Wednesday night right now. Yep. So I think we're going to end up moving after January. I think we're going to end up moving to the Tuesday night slot. Uli, I think that should hopefully be away from your golf outings and whatnot. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to probably this off season do a lot of interviews and have kind of like what we did with Will today, have more of the podcast based around that, bringing some people on. I talked to Nico after USDGC, who I want to say quickly, obviously keep us all honest. I love that. But I did play a full round with Nico. I did not think he played slow at all. And I told him, we talked a little bit about it, and he was like, yeah, I've been trying to play faster. He did not play slow at all. Like, if anything, I thought he played pretty good, quick wise. So for all you guys going after him on slow play, you might need to find someone else. We might need to target our beams somewhere else, because he was not a problem at USDGC. But that's the plans for this off season, is Tuesdays, live show, having more people come on. So be on the lookout for that. Let's see here. Also, some housekeeping here. Tour Life crew has been going great. We had another member only live stream, which was awesome to kind of talk to you guys and just hang out for a little bit. The Discord has also been going great. So if you haven't jumped over there, make sure you do that. The link will be on the YouTubes if you're listening. But Tour Life crew has been awesome. We have a couple new captains. So shout out to our captains, Thor Liam, Ronnie Baker, Jacob Warden, Cy Duck, and Jade Dudo Ward. Those are our captains. Appreciate for all the support. If you guys love what we're doing here and you love the podcast, you can become a member. You get a bunch of perks right now. One of the biggest perks is you get to chat in the live, and we get to kind of see that go on. Spotify and Apple podcast listeners, we appreciate all your guys' reviews. We're at 567 reviews on Spotify, 146 on Apple. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to do that. And Uli, the email went out today for the Tour Life job interview. So if you're listening and you applied and you didn't get an email, thank you so much for applying. You didn't make it to the next stage, but we're moving forward. and we're one step closer into potentially having some maybe another voice on here at some point. I don't know. We don't really know what that job is going to entail as far as the actual podcast goes, but they are going to be doing a lot more on the social media side. So we do appreciate everyone that applied to that. Uli, got anything else? It was a good show, man. Good show.
No, man, that was awesome. I loved hearing Holyn's takes, and congrats to her. Having Will on was absolute pleasure, kind of going down memory lane. And then, yeah, I can't wait for this week to be over. I cannot wait, man. The tour's almost over.
USDC and then this right back to back. That is a treat for you.
I gotta get up and go play tomorrow, so I'm ready for bed, buddy.
Yeah, dominate. All right, well, we thank all our guests, Holyn. We thank Will. We thank Silas, as always, behind the keys, making sure this show actually operates. The crackle hasn't come back for a while, so knock on wood that we keep going there. And we thank all you guys for listening. We'll see you guys next week.